This week's damn episode of the podcast is not brought to you by any damn sponsor, just like every other damn time. Now enjoy the damn show. Welcome to Oz, a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob. And guys, it's another solo show. Team show will be next week, of course. But this week, I have a wonderful guest returning. We talked for a massive 3 hours the last time she was here and barely scratched the surface, which is so exciting. It's always great when a guest has so much to say because it makes my job a whole lot easier. We remember her, of course, from the wonderful film Saturday Night, from Captain America Brave New World. And we didn't talk about it last time, really, but we will learn more about her time with Jason Reitman. I forgot his name for a second. That was really professional. And of course, we didn't touch on the fact that she also worked with the Mr. Francis Ford Coppola. So we'll see how we go and if we can get any stories there as well. But what we do need to do is talk about her favorite films. So let's dive back into it. Please welcome back the fantastic guest, the very wonderful Nadia Robertson. Welcome back, Nadia.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me back, especially after I talked your head off the last time. So
It was
I'm just
great.
grateful you were willing to have me back and go through it again.
No, I was excited to have you back, man. Do you know what? I had the whole intro planned in my head. I completely forgot to mention how you're such a big fan of Patrick Wilson, but that's okay.
Oh my God. Like I said, I can't believe you named the podcast episode Big Fan.
When you brought that up, I was like, oh no, did I make a mistake? I'm like, it's a funny line. Like, it's such a pivotal moment of that show for me. Like, it couldn't have been anything other than big fan. It was, and
Jesus,
has.
it has haunted me. Honestly, God, I think about it, it just plays back in my head. Oh, big fan, big fan. That's all I could say. And I had thought for days, oh, I'm gonna talk about Watchmen and all this stuff and just everything, Aquaman, all these things that he's so good in, and that's all. It's just little word vomit. So if I ever work with him again or see him at a con, I'm gonna have redemption.
Yeah.
Which I've been lucky enough to do before. I've redeemed myself in the past with people that I've had just embarrassing encounters with, but then met them later and was able to be like, okay, look, I'm older now. I have myself together. I have more experience. I'm not gonna fangirl out this time, I swear.
I
Oh my God.
I hear you, man. But it is and you were face to face, one on one with the guy. It's fair enough that you kind of didn't know what to say. I'm not very good with celebrity encounters either. I haven't had too many of them. My biggest celebrity encounter, I think, was probably with an Australian actor when I used to sling DVDs back in the day, and he's all over the TV, huge comedic actor. And I recognized his face, and I was talking to him. I was helping him. I was trying to help him find a movie, and I could not remember his name. And I'm like, I know your name. I know your name. I know who you are. You've been on my TV since I was a child. Why can't I remember your name? So I was just, it must have seemed really passive aggressive and just not interested to acknowledge who he was at all. But I was like, I can't remember his name. If I ask it, I'm going to look like a fool. So I'm just going to be like, all right, here's your DVD. See you later. So I think we all feel a bit awkward at times.
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, it doesn't help too when I said, he looked very good in real life.
He's one of the
super
most
handsome
underrated,
too in
beautiful
person.
men in Hollywood.
'Cause it's one thing when they're on the screen, and they're actors, and that they've gone through hair and makeup, and they get touch ups between takes, and plus there's just there's things in post production where you can make people look even better. So when you see someone standing in front of you in person and they actually do look that amazing, you're like, wow, okay, so they don't really have to do much to you, do they? You just, I mean, and I know they still go through hair and makeup, but you can tell when someone is just naturally amazing looking and how they carry themselves too. It's just the whole thing. It's not just the physical look, but it's the physical presence all around. You're just you can see how the term starstruck came to be. You really do just lose. You might walk in all professional, this is my job. I'm just gonna clock in and stand in front of Patrick Wilson all day, but then, when he walks up and shakes your hand, you're just like, like just like you lose all your bones and your mouth just, doesn't have a jaw anymore to speak with.
Absolutely. I don't know if we talked about this last time. I definitely have talked about it on the show before, but my Patrick Wilson moment was seeing him play the guitar in Conjuring 2. Like, I've always liked him. I've liked him since Hard Candy. I'm like, wow, this guy's really fascinating. But he sits down and plays the Elvis song and does an impression. I'm like, well, this is maybe the sweetest, most beautiful man in Hollywood. Like,
Mm.
why did I not notice it until now? And I'm watching it on my TV at home, so there's every opportunity to be distracted and not to get it. And I'm just like hooked on Wilson. I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing.
Oh my
So,
god, yeah, I'm a sucker for an Elvis acoustic number, so yeah, that's a ticket to my heart right there. I'm just like, okay, well, I'll never be able to behave properly around this man ever again after that. All right.
Um, so I think we have some unfinished business. I need to address something, Nadia. We talked about this off mic, of course, but I finally saw you in Captain America. I took your advice and I watched the featurette. And when I saw how obviously positioned you were in that screen, and I mean, like even if you blinked 20 times, you wouldn't miss you. I was like, how did I miss this poor woman? She's so clearly right next to Anthony Mackie. So
Oh
we
god,
got
like I
there.
said, it was a big scene, like a lot of extras, and obviously, if you watch the movie, like it's an important big action sequence. So
Mm,
there's just a lot going on, and the camera is always panning. It's not still a whole lot. You got Harrison Ford up there talking, and so there's just I could, even though I did manage to thankfully get in there pretty good, I could definitely see. I mean, I sometimes, like I said, miss myself even. So that I had to
mm,
go back and see it a second time because when you're in it and you're watching for yourself and for like your friends and stuff too, not just for yourself, it's just the adrenaline is pumping so much. Like your eyes, they're just like spazzing out at that point. It's like, it's overload. I can't focus. So, I could definitely, see someone just forgetting to even look. I mean, you are there ultimately for the actual movie. We can't forget this, the movie itself. It's not about the background extras.
No, but even still, when I saw you, I was like, "Geez!" Like I can't even be like, "Well, it was a really busy scene, and you were tucked away." Like I literally, I counted in the featurette. In the featurette, you're on screen for at least 5 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking frames per second, that's a lot of time. Like to be able to take it in. I was like, "Geez!" Like I gotta get my eyes checked. But it was lovely to see you up on screen. I was like, "Oh my god, she is right next to Anthony Mackie. That's awesome."
Yeah, and to be fair, again, as far as recognition, they had my hair in this cool little French updo thing. So I feel like when people think of me, they probably think of my hair down a lot because that's just honestly how I like in my real life. It's either just like twirled up in a clip real fast to get it out of
Mm,
the way or it's down. Like there's really not much. I honestly, for someone who works like modeling and acting, and most of the time to all these things, they want you to come hair and makeup ready.
mm.
So for someone that is like literally a requirement skill for my job, to be honest, I have never really developed the skill of doing anything to myself in terms of like hair and makeup. Like I never picked up those skills. Even with YouTube tutorials, all I've done is saved probably 1,000 tutorial videos. But have I actually sat down with the curling iron and with all the makeup products? No, I have not. So I'm too busy trying to get the jobs that require me to do this thing that I don't know how to do. So, they put my hair up in some kind of crazy do. I wish I had taken a picture of the back of it. I've gotten better more recently about whenever they do something fancy with my hair that I know there's no way in hell I could ever achieve that on my own at home. Like I
Mm.
try to like the camera back there and get it in the bathroom, or I'll ask someone, be like, "Hey, can you take a picture of the back of my head? I know that's weird, but like I want to see what I was in freaking hair for like 40 minutes. I want to see what they were doing with all those bobby pins.
Yeah.
What they were doing, yanking all my hair back there the whole time. So I wish I had gotten a photo of it to see what all it looked like. But I can see too, that doesn't help with like trying to spot me if you're used to seeing me with just like my lazy hair down do. And then it's all of a sudden it's like up in some fancy thing. Like I can look really different. And especially too, I'm in like those that like really, fancy political kind of suit. So I mean, I'm definitely not wearing that on a day to day.
You're being very kind to a man whose eyes are clearly starting to fail him. But it is really nice to hear. It's so relatable to hear you say, "I know I'm supposed to do this for my job, but I just didn't really do it." Like, as someone who does zero preparation for his podcast, he's just like, "Ah, we'll just wing it." Like, it's very refreshing
Oh
to hear.
my god. Oh, it's bad, honestly. Like I really need to be better about it. But also too, like, okay, it takes time and energy. And I always literally scoff. Like I make an audible noise when I check my email and I see a call time of like 6:30 call time. Come hair and makeup ready for this wedding scene or this like club scene. And I'm like, you are out of your mind if you think that I am like going to be there and having come, which means like at 4 in the morning, like I'm
Mm.
getting ready to go clubbing. Like, no, I'm not, no one's doing that. Like, you're lucky if I'm literally physically there on time at 5:30 in the morning and not late, let alone like, there are oftentimes like we're all checking in early in the morning, and especially if like sometimes like it'll be nice hair and makeup or someone will have at least some music playing so it's not just like dead ass silent at 5 a.m and it's on the sun's not even up and everyone's like dead. And sometimes people will be like, hey, how you doing? And I'll be like, I'm here. I made it here physically, mentally. No, I can't report on that right now, but like, so to I'm like barely there, more than physically. So to come like with my hair done and full makeup, like I don't even know how to do that like in my private life. Like when I like I had a wrap party for my first wrap party I got invited to last year was for Saturday night. And I was like, oh shit, like, I've been lucky the whole time on set, like considering that it was like the nature of the film. I actually had no makeup on for the movie because it's in the 70s and I'm a behind the scenes crew member for SNL. Like I'm not showing up to that like in full makeup. It's very minimal in my hairs and braided pigtails. Like it thankfully was one of the fastest hair and makeup processes, especially because I had to do it the same thing every day for over a month. So I'm glad it was like very simple, but like everyone had seen me like that the whole time and no one had really seen me like, okay, now it's on me to show up to this party and show up and show out. Like y'all need to see what I look like normally, but it's like normally I do look more like what I've been on like on set, like the no makeup and the minimal hair. So I'm like, oh my god, like haven't been invited to a rap part cast party before at that point. So I was like, I've got to actually look nice. Holy shit! All right, so, like,
It is really refreshing to hear, though, that for a film, the requirements were not to be made up. They're like, look, and then Reitman's the guy. He's the guy to do it, right? Like he's like, look, this is a period piece. The only people wearing with hair and makeup that we need to have attention on are the people who are going to be on screen. The people who are working behind the scenes, they wouldn't necessarily come up dolled up to work, especially not in the '70s. So that's the kind of I
exactly.
really appreciate that attention to detail. Um, let's talk about Saturday Night 'cause we didn't get to talk about it last time. It was one of my favorite films of
Okay.
2024. Such a special film, I think. And like even thinking back to it now, I get choked up about certain moments. Even though it's not that kind of film, it's a very fun film at times, a very kind of anxious film at times. But I think it's just crafted with such love,
Mhm.
for that show and for those people. And I think really humanizes, Lorne Michaels, who's not. I don't think he's anyone who's kind of perceived anything other than very human, but we don't see or hear him a lot. He's often behind the scenes and letting the work speak for itself. So I thought it was such a wonderful peek into his life and the challenges he had. So what was that set like? What was it like working with Jason Reitman?
Okay. I have to say, before we move on,
Mm,
I wanted to add a couple of things
mm,
that this is the thing about doing a two-parter podcast is
yes.
that when we record the first part and there's a week in between, that unfortunately gives me time to go back and actually listen to us talking and listen furthermore to myself talking. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, again, like I said, I am just thankful you even willfully had me on a second time after that. Like, oh my God. Like,
I
I'm
am
trying to
thrilled you listened to the show. I never expect guests to listen to their own show, so that's amazing. Thank you.
really, I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like I'm the more podcasts and just things in general you do, the better you get at it. So
Mm,
I'm kind of like, it's sort of like actors who don't go back and watch their own work. Like, I get it. Like, Adam Driver apparently can't stand to like see himself
mm.
do things on screen. I know there are other people like that, but as excruciating as it can be to watch yourself or listen to yourself talk on a podcast for 3 hours straight, I do think it is a pivotal, if not painful sometimes, learning experience that is unfortunately necessary because it's all part of the process. I hate to admit it, but I will never stop saying like, and if I don't make myself go back and listen to how many times I say during every podcast I record, including my like, oh my God, like
Well,
I
I think you are
swear.
quite hard on yourself because you're like, I can't believe you invited me back. The whole point of this show is long form storytelling with no agenda. Like, and you are a storyteller, Nadia. Like, I could just, as I said, I can just sit there and listen. Like your own solo shows. Like I've done solo shows in the past, was just me by myself, and I can kind of get maybe 45 minutes out of it. You will talk for 2 hours, and not just.
God.
And not just about nothing, like you will stay focused, but you will go on tangents and you'll have fun with it and it's engaging. So, listening to you talk to yourself for 2 hours, I was like, oh my God, like what a dream guest this is going to be. And you absolutely were. The only reason we had to wrap up early, quote unquote, early last time was because I had to leave. But no, I think you've been very hard on yourself. Like
Oh my
this,
God.
this,
Well, I
this is my
appreciate
favorite
that.
thing. I love listening to people talk about movies and like people who are engaged in the craft and working in the craft. Like that's a side of the industry I don't have a lot of access to. Like I'm not in the industry, so and you said it. You were like, "Look, Captain America just came out. I haven't had a chance to speak to him about it. I'm dumping all my stories here." I was like, "Great! This is like the most timely episode ever. This is fantastic." So, I will let you finish your thought, of course, but I just want to say, like, you don't need to be too hard on yourself. Not here. This is a very laid back show.
This is a safe space. We listen, we don't judge, right?
Yeah, man. We just talk and have fun.
God, no. Okay, I appreciate that because I really could just like I said before, I don't need cocaine because I could just talk for hours like without the drugs. So imagine me just like like that's what I sound like. That's what I sounded like listening to the last podcast. I was like, holy shit, someone fit a muzzle over my mouth. Like make it and let James speak on his own podcast. Holy
No, the ones where I speak less is great. Like I work like
shit.
in my job, I teach people how to talk. I always try to say too much about my job on the show, but I was doing this on the other day, and I was talking to someone like, let them talk. Like if they're doing all the heavy lifting for you, your job gets way easier. So and some
God.
podcast guests can't, and that's not a critique. Like some people have no experience, some people don't do a lot of kind of public conversation, and like I didn't do it until I started podcasting. Just one day I picked up a mic, and I was like, oh, we'll see what happens. But some people can't do it, and you need to be more hands-on and guiding. Like with you, it was very easy, and everything you were telling was so fascinating and interesting. So for me, it was just like, oh, this is the dream. Like I have questions and prompts, and there were things that I would bring up in a normal show. I use them to provide just a little bit of a loose structure to make give my guests some guidance. But you didn't need guidance, so like you were the easiest podcast guest in the world. You came loaded with stories, so yeah.
God, no, like I said, I love watching movies and
Mm.
thinking about them and talking about them. And I swear this must be coming from like only child syndrome or something. Just growing up, watching all this stuff and playing games and reading things and just having no one to like share it with and to talk to about. So it's just like pent up. And I've always, I mean, I guess that's part of like always really from early on being interested in acting and storytelling and like even before I wanted to be an actor, because I know we were going to talk a little bit about my background, but like I probably really decided I wanted to be an actor when I was about 12, maybe in sixth grade. Because I grew up every year going to LA with my father because he had a chemical company that he owned, and he sold like a bunch of random stuff, like a lot of like dyes for metals and pool chemicals, like random
Oh
chemicals. And
wow.
so, yeah, so he was like a salesman and he partially owned this company. And he had a lot of business in California and Mexico. And so we would just every summer, soon as school finished, I was like hardly at home much because I was traveling with him. Either sometimes we'd take the car and make a road trip out of it, or fly around on the plane. But like I would spend a hefty amount of time in LA, and it just really shaped a lot of my perspective of big cities and being around just all the Hollywood stuff, all the old establishments. Like, went to Bob's Big Boy, Musso and Frank's, like Mel's Drive In, like all these places that are all these like referenced in pop culture and TV and film throughout time. Like that is my what I grew up with. So I
And is this
really,
in the 90s?
yeah, it was in the
Yeah, because I know I
90s.
think we're about the same age, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
So yeah, so 90s,
Yeah.
so 90s Hollywood and 90s LA is very different to today.
Oh gosh, it sure was. And I love that I got to experience multiple decades of it.
Mm,
Traveling and visiting there as a kid, and then living there eventually as an adult in the later 2000s. So it was definitely interesting when I actually moved there, like in like 2010, to see, since because I hadn't gone back in a long time. Like once I got older, I was my father didn't have that really company anymore, and I wasn't traveling like that anymore. So especially too when you're an adult, you're traveling on your own money, not dad
yeah.
money.
Yes, yeah. Oh
It ain't the
yes.
parents'
That
money no
comes for
more.
us all.
Yeah, so once it became my money out of my pocket, it was like, oh, okay, the trips are kind of slowing down at this point. So it had been a long time. And so when I finally moved there, I was like, whoa, I mean, it's weird because so much of it is like untouched, just like it's always there. And then there's
Mm.
other things that you see how it's changed. And then I'm sure so much has changed even since I've been back. It's been a long time since I've been able to visit. So it's a place that's like it's established. I mean, it's Hollywood. It's always
Mm.
going to be Hollywood. But then it's like anywhere where it grows and it changes and things disappear over time. They get torn down or go out of business, or and then they come back sometimes. Like a lot of the theaters during the pandemic went out of business and then came back. Thank God. So there's just a flow there. But
Well, we
anyhow,
lost we lost the arc light. Like how
oh
did
my God, Cinerama Dome,
like
R.I.P.
how did we I don't know the status but my understanding it hasn't come back. Has it come back? The arc light's still gone, isn't it?
I think so. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard keeping up with them because so many closed, and then I know so many people are like have been fighting. Jason was one of them.
Mm.
He's done a lot to try to save a lot of the local theaters in LA.
Because I was very
Uh,
lucky. We went to LA. Literally, the year I proposed to my wife, we actually proposed to her in LA, um,
oh,
outside of Hogwarts at Universal Studios because she's a big Harry Potter fan.
oh
Um, and I
goodness.
can't not make it about movies, apparently. But in the week we were there, we were very lucky. We went to the ArcLight twice, so I got to see La La Land, and then I also saw Split in the Dome. So, um, and I love the way LA does movies at the theater. No ads. There were no advertisements for cars or insurance. It was just trailers.
Oh,
And, a guy or a girl comes out and they've got a name tag on with their favorite movie and they intro the movie to you. And I was like, this is one of the best theatrical experiences I've had in my life. I wish more people would do it. And I've heard people complain about the price of the ArcLight, but I'm like, hey, I'll pay a couple of bucks extra more to not watch ads and have someone tell me about the movie. Like, what a great experience that was. So, um,
yeah, I mean, it was pricey. That, and I'm sure that absolutely did not help. It was definitely one of the more expensive, if not maybe the most expensive movie ticket, like
yeah.
around town. But I mean, like I loved the things that they did. Like they used to have like a lot of costume pieces
Well,
from the
yeah,
movies that
we
were
were there
showing.
during it was the lead up to the Oscars, and they had all of Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone's costumes from La La Land in the foyer.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Oh my
and I was like,
goodness.
"This is amazing!" Like, yeah, oh man, like
Like
as
a
a
little mini museum in the lobby.
yeah, and I get it if you're not a film fan, if you're not big on films, like that is a pricey ticket, and like you might not care about that stuff, but it's LA. Everyone cares about movies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's like that's why you're there. And like
yeah.
in 2014, when the American Godzilla came out, like for the first time in so long, a Godzilla in the US, they actually did something very similar to like Japanese style movie campaigns where they do all that wild big stuff. They actually had Godzilla's head breaking through out of the top of the Cinerama Dome. It
Oh, I
was
remember seeing that.
so
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. Oh, that's so cool. But I'm also
So
now I'm sad because that theater's not there anymore.
I know. And it's sad too, because like I actually worked as a producer's assistant at LA Film School, which is really close to the ArcLight Cinerama Dome area. So I was walking and working around that area so much, and it just it's just very nostalgic. But
Mm,
it just reminds me like this. It's always going to be there.
yeah,
LA hashtag LA strong.
yeah.
Whatever goes on, it's always going to be there, and it always stands testament to like I just love how much of my personal like history is tied in with that city.
Oh,
Like
of
even
course.
before I actually lived and worked there, it was just so
Mm,
much a part of like what made me who I am. And so
yeah.
I like when I worked it's funny you talk about storytelling like I when I worked as a producer's assistant at LA Film School, there was one part of my job that was doing like script coverage.
Yep.
So, the producer, he's busy. He does not have time to read all the scripts like thrown his way. So
Yep.
he has, the underlings like me, hired. So I'd read through the scripts and then I would give basically like coverage of it. So sometimes a written, basically, and like synopsis slash kind of breakdown of what I thought of it, like an analysis, and whether I thought it was like worth pushing forward or not. I
Mm,
mean, I didn't get to make that decision, but I would at least give a thumbs up, like this is just absolutely not it, or this has potential. I
mm,
think So the first time I did coverage for this producer, I don't remember what movie it was. So it's funny, like I've actually done so many coverages. There are some things that I've done that I did get to see come out later that I'm like, oh my God, like I read that script five
oh,
years ago.
are you allowed to tell us? Can you?
So my first job that I did in LA, I was doing assistant for Copelson Entertainment,
Okay.
for the Copelsons, and they produced a show called Nightmare Alley. Or not
Okay.
Nightmare Alley. That's the
That's the Del
movie.
Toro movie.
Yes, but it was something very like Nightmare on Carnival Row. That's what it
Oh,
was.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember
This
that
was
one.
so long ago. This is back in 2010. So, and it was like one of the first scripts I did coverage for, like, period. So
Yeah,
I'm like trying to remember, but that's it. That was the show.
that's
So,
cool.
and I never saw it. And it's so long since I did the coverage. Like, I kind of wonder how much of it they kept. Like, it would be
Mm,
cool if, like, I had given suggestions. Like, I actually might. I mean, obviously, all this is NDA, so I couldn't, like, share it. But I do have a lot of my coverage saved via, like, files on my email. So, if I go back, I might actually be able to backtrack some of the shows and movies and scripts, like, that I saw and be like, oh my God, this came
mm.
out. And they took my suggestion or
Well, that's
whatever,
why I asked if you're allowed to, because I know that. Well, I think they sometimes they take NDA serious. So I think it depends on who breaks the NDA, to be honest. But it sounds like your job, like you were. I don't know if you're familiar with Arrested Development, but you were maybe like maybe goes to her
Oh my
dad's work,
God.
and then she just gets to. There's that great joke where she's like, "Read this assignment," and it's her homework, and they turn it into a movie. Like it's so good.
I was such a maybe. Like, oh my goodness. Like, totally fake it till you make it too. Like, that's
Mm.
like when you first get to Hollywood and it's like, all right, I have nothing on my resume. So I'm just going to jump into this production office and do whatever they tell me to do and pretend I know what I'm doing, that I belong here. Oh my God. Like, it's totally like by the end of like the month, you're walking around like pretending someone else is like your assistant now. And you're like, yeah, man, meet you for a round of golf later. You just gotta like blend yourself right in. Oh my God. No, like that producer at LA Film School, like that first thing of coverage I did for him, I was so nervous because I had never sat in like a producer's like desk before, like across from a producer at all.
Mm.
So that was just like a new experience. And I had never like not only sat at a producer's desk, because when I got the job, I didn't even like meet with the guy. I met with like the guy underneath him, his like first assistant technically, and like his executive assistant or whatever. And so this was like really the first time I even got to like interact with this dude. So I was like so nervous. And I mean, if you hear me talking a mile a minute, just talking to you casually on this podcast, like you can imagine me nervous with like all the anxiety and like adrenaline like rushing through me. And I'm just like telling this script to him, like, and so and the lady, and by the end of it, he was like, "Oh my god, Nadia, you are like a one woman show. Like this is crazy." And I was like, "Oh my god." He was like, "No, no, no, no." He's like, "You're a good storyteller. You definitely need to be in this business." He was like, just like, "Oh my god, you should do stand up or something." I was like, "Oh my god." So whenever I
Honestly, what
get
I'm imagining is the end of The Fablemans, where Gabriel LaBelle, to bring it back to Saturday Night, is sitting opposite David Lynch, and Lynch is just educating on how to be a filmmaker. Like that's the scenario I'm seeing in my head. You opposite this producer's desk. Um,
my God, no. Instead of though the producer, bequeathing advice to me, I'm the one sitting there talking his head off like that. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, give me a platform to stand on to speak and I will apparently run with it. So no, I definitely appreciate it. And like, oh, it's just tough. Like it's tough doing a two-parter and having the chance to like go back and listen to yourself. And like I said, I try to do it so I can teach myself how to, just be a better, more eloquent speaker. Calm the fuck down. But oh my God, it's like it is. I could see why Adam Driver's like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not watching myself. I'm not listening to myself. Like, holy shit. I feel like I sound like an android with two settings. It's either robot child or it's sex phone operator voice. Like I'm trying to get this sweet spot. Like, there's got to be a middle somewhere in there. I've got to
Maybe
find it.
you just live in a world of two extremes, and that's okay. Like
Oh my
it's fine.
God, no. Like halfway through listening to the podcast, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I need to like put myself out of my misery, like for myself and for the listeners, especially for the listeners. Like I just wanted to like dive headfirst into Judge Doom's dip. I was like, end it now, like before I say another word. Like make it stop.
Look, full disclosure, that is the most anyone's spoken about one film on the show. I think at one point I was like, we've been going for 45 minutes on Roger Rabbit. I'm like, we're going to run out of time. But it wasn't a single minute wasted. Like you had so many like refreshing ideas and thoughts and really dissected in a way that we always strive to do on the show. But some people just don't have the energy and that enthusiasm to get into it as much as you did. Like I was having a blast. I was just like, oh my goodness, like you're treating Roger Rabbit of all things like the Bible or like like the discovery of life itself. Like yes, like that's why we do this, because we take films so seriously. We have a lot of fun with them, but we take our passion for them so seriously. So I was never there was no point where I was like, oh my god, like wrap it up. I was like, no, please, like
like
keep it going. Like
get the cane off, I'll get her off the stage with the
yeah,
long cane.
like Snagglepuss, just
Yeah. No, oh my God. No, I appreciate that because to be honest, there were actually a couple of things I left out of Roger Rabbit that I wanted to mention really fast, despite all of that. But like you said, it was watching it felt like, seeing life itself. Like it was just such a big, important part of my childhood and my kind of my first big movie experience, like just like something totally blowing my dome.
mm,
So it definitely deserves, I mean, like I said, it could have its whole podcast like
yeah.
easily. There's just the magic of it is so wonderful.
Oh,
But
Nadia,
like,
I think you could do an entire podcast series just on Roger Rabbit. Like you,
oh my God. Well, I was gonna say that what something that I loved about it is I was mentioning kind of like the prophetic nature of Judge Doom's like kind of master scheme with the
mm,
highway system. Just how it plays contextually into the plot of the film itself, with trying to erase Toon's existence and displacing them from their homes, and basically literally erasing Toons and Toontown to make way for like real life commercial commodities, essentially things that
mm.
we don't even need, but what is being pushed on us, for personal business interests and governmental interests and things like that that don't service, like you're saying, the actual residents of these places that is experiencing all these societal like urbanization change. So something I really liked, like in a very like kind of metatextual way, is that the movie Roger Rabbit takes place in 1947, and
Mm.
Judge Doom has this whole kind of plot with how he bought up all this land, and he demolished the rail car system, so people would be forced to use the highways with cars because there's no more public transportation in LA. And so I love that in real life in 1947, the master plan of metropolitan Los Angeles freeways was actually adopted by the Regional Planning Commission that year,
Mm.
the same movie the year takes place. So
Yeah.
as Judge Doom is, describing what he theoretically wants to do with this like evil plan, like it really happened in real life that same year.
Well, I
So,
I can't remember if we touched on it or not. Um, but something that just came to me is the other. I said the one. There's a huge parallel to this movie that I don't know if we discussed or not. Is that you have this guy who's trying to wipe out an entire race of something in the 1940s. Like there's some very strong comparisons that can be made to some other things that happened in 1940. I don't know if we touched on it last time, but just I'm like, oh my goodness, like, how did I miss this? Like this guy just wants to eradicate all the tunes. Like he's rounding them all up and trying to remove them. I was like, oh my god, like is there a World War II parable to this as well that I completely missed? Like, oh my god, film is so layered. Um,
absolutely. I mean, he looks like the dude from, Indiana Jones, the
yes, yeah, yeah,
Covenant, Ark of the Covenant. Like that trench coat and the black hat and the
yeah,
glasses, dark glasses. Like, yeah, he's got that evil Nazi villain look
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Which
Um,
obviously I didn't even know about the world wars yet at 4 years old. So again, this is, you talk about wanting to rewatch it. Like as an adult, it's just going to be, I love that it's just a whole set of layers to go
yeah,
through.
well, I watched it. I think we talked about this. I watched it a few years ago, and I was shocked how much because you were like, "What was your opinion on Jessica Rabbit the second time?" And I was like, "Ah, it changed as an adult for sure." Um, yeah,
You're like, should I show this to children? She's pretty
yeah,
sexy. Like, it's pushing the envelope a little bit. But, something actually I appreciated as a child, even though, like I said, she was the first probably sexualized character I really saw in movies. And then on top of it, the first sexualized animated character, too. So I was just like, there's a lot of sex appeal happening in this,
yeah,
like, being flashed around. But something I appreciated, just like on a kind of sweet story character level, was that I really loved Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit's like marriage and their relationship. Even though part of the plot is like if she's having an affair or not, extramarital relations, and that's part of solving, the crime. It's just they're so in love with each other. And
mm,
it's interesting because it's like this anthropomorphic species crossover. So that's kind of salacious and taboo in itself to have like a cartoon rabbit with like a woman who is a cartoon still. Like they're both tunes, but like she's clearly not also a rabbit. It's not like
yes,
Bugs
yes,
and
yes.
Lola Bunny in Space Jam when they're trying to like kind of flirt. It's like you've got this interspecies thing
Yeah,
happening.
yes. But it's
But I,
executed. It's executed in such a great way where I don't know. I think you asked me like, how did I feel? Like, did I feel uncomfortable like with the sexualization of Jessica Rabbit? And I didn't. Like, as an adult, I think you wrangle with it harder. But like, to put it in perspective, there's another film that came out around the same time that had the exact same type of relationship, and that was Howard the Duck. And I watched
mm,
Howard the Duck for the first time last year, and that film did make me feel uncomfortable. That one, I was like, there are humanoid anthropomorphic ducks. There's a naked duck that seems to have physical breasts. Like, this is a very strange movie. And when they go into the sexualization of it, it doesn't work. And maybe it's because they're puppets. I don't know. Maybe it's because they're crudely created as opposed to these elegant drawings. And Roger Rabbit, I don't know what it is. But
that's
Roger
gotta
Rabbit,
play into it. I
for
think the
sure, right?
physicality of the puppets gives it that weird, what's it called? Like when you get with like AI robots, the
Oh, the
cognitive
uncanny
the
Valley.
uncanny valley. I think
Yeah.
that plays into it. It's like you said, it's way more eloquent and like graceful in motion and just smooth, like literal smooth lines with the
Mm.
animation. But with like the puppets, it's just you've got the texture in and you've got weird, like motionless eyes at times and mouths that
Yes.
don't articulate fully. You know, there's just like something more unnatural that brings that to attention. So when there is something that's trying to be sexy, you're like, it can't, the too weird, too many things clashing.
It's a strange one because I remember buying it. I'm like, there's no way it's as bad as everyone says it is, and it's not. By the way, it's totally fun, but like it does have weird moments. And I was like, I'm going to show this to my daughter tomorrow. It's going to be great. And like in the first 5 minutes, I'm like, nope, she can never watch this. Not till she's 21, and then she can decide to watch it. This is a weird movie, but yeah, you're
Good,
right.
but
Like
for
the
different. I love like. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying, well, no, I was going to change subject. So yeah, please jump in.
Oh no, no. I was just gonna say for as sexual as like Jessica Rabbit, like definitely overtly is.
Mhm.
I just love like how sweet she is with Roger. Like I love that in the beginning of the movie, Roger is portrayed as just like this goofy fuck up,
Yeah,
essentially. Like
yeah.
he's like bad at his job and everyone's just like there's all this chaos and trouble around him and you know when he can't even drink without like just going like literally off the wall. Like it just seems like he's just a lot to handle, and it's not necessarily like he's not necessarily bringing a whole lot physically to the table. Like he's kind of this puny little just silly thing. But despite Jessica Rabbit being the epitome of like goddess
Mm,
physically, I mean, she's just like perfect in every way bod and just owns her sexuality and seems so empowered even if she's like a showgirl on stage put to perform for men and there's this whole sleaze aspect to it, like she's still very much never, even though she's thrown around literally in the movie and taken captured, like she still feels like she has ownership of herself.
hmm.
And Roger is just such a loose cannon and all over the place. And it just like, how are these two even together? What does she see in this guy? And I love that, like, despite all of these not attractive on paper qualities about Roger, like, I love that he just makes her laugh. And
Yes.
that's it. And it's like she could have literally anyone she wanted. She's drawn to be perfect. Like
Yes.
literally made to be perfect because she's since she is a cartoon, there is this sort of psychological thing there where someone like drew them and unlike even though like when we're born theoretically someone made us genetically, we didn't have control over which genetics to affect our appearance. But
Yes.
like but with a tune you are literally drawn to look the way that someone envisioned you, and let's face it, usually men, because there aren't as
Yes.
many female cartoonists in the business in general. So it's going to be through a male gaze and lens. And so you're drawn to move the way they animate you and to look the way that they've designed you to look. And so she really technically has no agency over herself at all.
Yeah.
and but like despite all of this, she still goes instead of going for like a hunk or some rich guy in Hollywood. She just wants little Roger. He's just so funny and goofy. And I love that that's mirrored kind of in Eddie's relationship with Dolores, like in their physical real world, that he's kind of like this short, goofy guy too. And he's not really great at his job because he's like a drunk and, you know, kind of fell off after his brother died. And he's trying to, you know, his life's kind of in shambles too. And then you've got Dolores, who's obviously got her shit together. She's running this diner and she's handling all these drunk guys and Judge Doom coming in fucking shit up the place. And she's just kind of, she's like Jessica and he's like Roger. And I
Mm.
like that there's that parallel there with the characters. And even though there's definitely some very in your face sexual stuff that even as a kid, I saw that, I kind of still reacted more. I mean, and there was no denying the sexuality. I was like, okay, at 4 years old, I was like, she is hot. I don't even know what all that means for me, but like, there's no denying on the stage dancing with the cleavage all out in that iconic red dress. I'm like, this is something. But
Well,
despite
if it
all
wasn't
that,
obvious enough for you, that wolf definitely like does everything you need to know. Like that wolf is
with
doing
the
everything.
woo,
But
woo,
yeah,
really,
like,
Oh my god, the tongue
Still one of
rolled
my
out on the
favorite
table,
gags.
the eyes popping out. No, I mean,
Yeah.
she makes that's the reaction you get when you look at her. And even still, I just always found the relationship itself outside of the sexual attraction that's obviously a part of it. I like that the movie kind of does give you some good focus on not just sexualizing her and making the
Mm.
relationship more. And I think it, in a weird way, I think it kind of inspired me at a young age to find humor and like attractive
Mm.
more than just like the obvious thing, which is physical attraction. But like it kind of started me on a path of like finding people who make me laugh was attractive.
Yes.
So that would explain my Jim Carrey crush I had a few years later in like second and third grade on Ace Ventura and Batman Forever. I was like, I was like, this guy's so weird. And he's not even like, I mean, he's a good looking guy, but he's not like, when it was between him and Val Kilmer and Batman Forever, like Val Kilmer is obviously Batman for a reason. Like the man's got a chiseled jaw, he's like obviously the handsome choice. But I was like, Jim Carrey, he just makes me laugh. So I get you, Jessica girl. I see you. I see you. We look, we listen, we don't judge.
Well, you bring up a couple of things that I want to touch on. First of all, I struggle to remember what came before Roger Rabbit in terms of relationships on screen, but it seems like that's the template that every sitcom in the 90s followed, and beyond. Like if you look at sitcoms from the 90s
Yes,
onwards, you got the schlub husband who's kind of funny but
like
basically
Married with
useless,
Children.
and somehow like has the hottest wife you've ever seen. Like every sitcom, it's like, how did this dude end up with this babe? And then you're like, oh well, they're Roger Rabbiting it. Like, and that's the phrase we're going to use now
Yeah.
because I don't know if it happened before then, but that is the that seems to be the kind of the formula.
That might
Um,
just be the male fantasy.
as someone who is a schlub and not very good at things and did marry a hot wife, like I can say yes.
You're like,
Um,
look, I'm hating on it now. Hate the player, not the game. Or wait, the game, not the player. That's right.
yeah, please don't
No,
hate
but
me. And the other thing I want to touch on, because you mentioned that there aren't a lot of, especially at that time, a lot of female cartoonists, which you're absolutely right. We do seem to be getting more and more, especially in the last few years. Warner
Mhm.
Brothers, particularly, I've noticed with cartoons, like they did the DC superhero girls, and they've done a few things where they had female-led shows and female illustrators. But there's a wonderful artist, and I'm just going to say this for everyone because everyone should go check her out. Her name's Joelle Jones. She's a comic book artist, and she did a run on Supergirl, which was fantastic. But she has this excellent comic book called Lady Killers, and it's literally set in the 50s, and it's about a woman who's a housewife but moonlights as an assassin. And no one draws women better than she does. So I just want to throw out that Joelle Jones,
Ooh.
incredible artist, like just gets the style perfectly and just uses her use of line is fantastic. She has these big, thick lines, which is often considered a no-no when it comes to cartoons and comic work, but it is incredible. So, and Lady Killer, by the way, like just a wonderful story. Like it's almost like female Dexter, but maybe better.
Ooh.
So anyway, just because you touched on the lack of women drawing, I just want to touch on someone who's very, very good at it and should get a lot more praise.
Oh, okay. I love that the segue there, going from the male gaze and drawing to actually having female driven cartoons and artwork of women. So I like to see, yay, evolution throughout the
Yeah,
years in the art
it took us
world.
40 years, but we got there.
Yeah, give the power back. Let ladies draw some ladies too. Now we can make them sexy, but we could also, give them a little more power back, a little
Yeah,
more.
she's sexy, but she also will kill everyone. So that's the trick. She's like the bride in Kill Bill, very good-looking woman. Never want to meet her. You know.
I love that. All right. Yeah, one last thing I was gonna say is that I guess two real fast is the when I talked about how my college thesis movie was inspired by Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The one of the weasels in the like Toon Gang
Hmm.
weasels. His name I believe is Psycho. He's the one that's in the straight jacket that is
Yes.
always like, oh, he's like a Tasmanian devil type, or he's just
Hmm.
always swirling around all over the place. I actually have a character in my short film that was like visually and kind of physically acting like inspired by that character. So I
That's
like,
amazing.
yeah, built him made like a straight jacket for him, and made him have the crazy hair, and he's like kind of a part animal, part man sort of creature in the film. So yeah, it was totally inspired. That one character was like directly inspired by that character from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And actually, this is funny enough, perfect transition into the last thing I was going to say is that talking last time before on the other podcast episode about how this movie was just like so much for me in terms of like first time like mentally kind of like understanding things about movies, like about how
Mhm.
actors can be in two different movies, like with Christopher Lloyd being in Back to the Future and in Who
Yes,
Framed
yes, yes.
Roger Rabbit is two totally separate types of roles. And then also when the that Hollywood Griffith Tunnel bridge, or yeah, the tunnel was used in both Back to the Future 2 and in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I was like, oh my God, how is the same actor in these two different movies and then the same physical location, which I know is real in LA? How
Mm.
is it in both of these two movies? It was just like blowing my mind left and right. Like, okay, like the line between reality and fiction is so thin, and something that was kind of connective part of that is that also in my student film there is another character, kind of like the movie basically is about this gang, and it's inspired by the Warriors or Clockwork Orange, a lot of different movies, but it's like essentially post-apocalyptic sometime in the not too distant future, and the world is overrun by like crazy gangs now, and
Mm.
there's also zombies, so it's like a clash of this dystopian world where like the two meet and what happens when like they're both like trying to survive on this one city, and who's gonna like claim the turf, essentially the undead or these like gang members, crazy gang members. So the lead gang member, the leader is his name, he was directly influenced by um is it Biff in Back to the Future 2?
Yeah.
Or no, no, no. Well, it's Biff. Okay, there's some because there's Biff and Griff, and so
Oh, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
so okay, so there's like the present day, like the main line Biff, right? But then there's
Biff
also
is
like
the Biff is Marty's
the
dad's bully. I think Griff is
okay,
is the older one, I
great,
think.
great. He's in the third one. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's still Biff then when the timeline gets fractured, and now he's like Trump with the Trump Tower in the
Yes.
casino, right? It's still Biff. Okay,
Oh, one
so
of my just gotta say one of my least favorite things ever is that storyline. And I don't mean like I love that movie. My favorite is part one. But when we go to that future and it's so horrible, and Marty's mum has like the massive like fake breasts, and she's become
he's got
like
the
this.
Jessica Rabbit boobs.
Oh man, like it's so like that, like that. Every time I feel so sick watching that. I'm like,
It
no, no, no,
hurts, doesn't
like
it?
no.
It hurts.
Oh my goodness, and like and like weirdly, we are now kind of living in a version of that future, which is really upsetting to
No,
see.
that really hurts.
Yeah,
Really.
but
Oh
like,
God.
seeing Marty's mum, because Marty's mum is like Leah Michelle. Again, like we just talked about Howard the Duck. Like, just such a I just feel like no one talks about her enough, especially her
Oh my
career in the
God.
80s. Like
I
such an
know.
incredible performer. Like I challenge anyone to find someone as sweet and innocent as Marty's mum, who also does have a bit of a wild streak, but it's never like she's never kind of
Yeah.
gratuitous. It's like that is just like that's just a teenage girl and she's just curious and excited and she likes Calvin Klein and like I think that's one of the great like teenage performances. I'm sure she wasn't a teenager when she played the role because no one was in the 80s. But like that performance is so subtle and beautiful, and
Yes.
like to see
And she
what.
plays so many different versions of Lorraine.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like, and that was kind of, I guess, a precursor to for me watching the Back to the Future trilogy was even just within I talk about the cognitive dissonance between Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future, but like even just within that trilogy, you
Yes.
have characters playing different versions of themselves. So you already
Mm.
have actors playing not just one character within the same movie and series. So that already kind of like got my mind primed for like, okay, just so you know, this is how it works in films. Like,
Yeah.
people aren't just one character forever and that's it. Like, even within the same movie, she could be three different versions of herself.
Mm.
Like,
Um, yeah, I think that transformation is one of the true cinematic tragedies that aren't talked about enough. Like to see wholesome Lorraine in the 50s being this like beautiful, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, like full of hope girl,
oh,
and then seeing what happens to her in that alternate future, like it breaks my heart and
like,
upsets me
you
every
wanted
time.
these. Like,
Yeah.
oh my, you paid for them.
Oh,
Sorry. Oh my gosh. No, it's tough. And it's tough to see the bad guy winning in that
yeah.
too. And especially since, like, so much, like, I love that that movie has multiple antagonists. Like, you grow
Yes.
up thinking that it's Biff, but it's really time the whole
Mm,
time. But it's like, how much does it suck to have, like, I mean, I guess technically we all have time as an antagonist in our lives depending on
sure.
your perspective on it, but
Yes.
like, damn, Biff, I mean, he'll chase your ass literally throughout time. Like, that guy just won't stop. Like, he's just bad news throughout the decades.
He
Like,
is, but also like so much more complex than people give him credit for. Because I think people look at him as like a one note bad guy, and he's like, but all he wants, like really all he wants at his core is to be liked. Like that's what Biff wants. And then when he gets a taste of power, he's just like a toddler who's who's the biggest toddler in the room and can push people around. But like all he wants is that pretty girl to like him. He doesn't really have that emotional intelligence to kind of separate like it all. Like he's very complex, but his motives are quite simple. I don't think he's as bad a guy as we kind of perceive him, but then with more money, with more power, just kind of augments and changes, and suddenly he becomes like he's physically a monster in that movie. Like he's so like he fills the frame. He's so big and overbearing and like grotesque. Like he kind of evolves into this creature. But if you look back to him as a kid, like all he really wanted was to be liked. Like that's what he wanted, and he didn't have the emotional maturity to be like, all right, this girl doesn't like me, another one will. Like that's the biggest crime I think of Biff. He's just he just didn't
if
know how
you
to
think
process
about
it.
it though, I think a lot of villains, both in fact and fiction, like,
Hmm.
that's how it starts out.
Yeah.
It's just a very simple psychological, like, kind of id complex where it's just these very base needs and wants, and that
Hmm.
snowballs with money and power or fame, into like some very basic needs turns into like, now you're this power hungry monster.
Mm.
And I mean, did you see The Apprentice? Because you could say everything you said about Biff just now could literally be said
About the other
watching.
guy,
Yeah.
I
The
have
guy
not.
there.
I've not
Yeah,
yet seen
yeah,
it.
the analogy for, the analog, the real one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, but to bring it back, the character in my student film, his I guess his son in the future, when they go into the future in the sequel, and they have the whole hoverboard thing, and his is it his Biff's grandson then at that point, or just son? I don't know, but like, I forget his name because he wouldn't be Biff. It's the
I think it
third
is.
name.
I think it is Griff. Or
Is
is
he?
it? I think
See,
it might.
now I can't remember because it's Griff in the Western, but it's his lineage. That one, that future Biff is the one that with all the like helmet and the shoulder pads and the
Yeah.
baseball and the way that he talks, and he's like, "Come on, man!" And like, ah, he's just like always in attack mode. He's like the fucking quarterback on like speed or something. Like, he's just to level 100 all the time, like the high school bully quarterback or something. So
It is. It
that
is Griff. I checked it for you. It's Griffin 2. In 3, it's Mad Dog. He's Buford Tannen.
Mad Dog, that's right.
That's
Mad
okay.
Dog
I had to
Liggins.
look it up. Normally, I'm pretty good, but I can.
Thank you.
Your impression, by the way, of Back to the Future 2, Biff or Griff, makes me want to see it played by oh my god, how I've forgotten his name now. Oh my god, who's Zed in Police Academy? Who's the insane guy? Oh my god, why am I forgetting this? Um, I just jumped
Did
ship completely. He plays Zed in Police Academy. Everyone knows him. He's the most eclectic actor of all time. Let me
look
look
it
it
up?
up.
I was gonna say,
He's got
oh my god,
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Um,
That's like you were doing the teeth mashing thing. I was like, oh my god, is he doing a Bobcat Goldthwait impression in that movie? It feels like it now that you pointed it out.
I love
Uh,
how everyone talks in that future scene, like that whole hoverboard over the water in the courthouse scene. Like, we need energized with more power.
yeah.
Like, oh my god, the way this song, I love it. It was very inspirational for me. But something I did not like, other than the actor thing, what I did not realize because I wasn't like I knew music cues as a
Mhm.
kid. I picked up on music cues in movies, so I was subconsciously aware that oh, Jaws has the same music cue as this, like different, the same composers. I didn't know who they were, but then
Mm,
I would start picking up on little cues that were in other movies. And I'm like, oh, this is like the little kind of musical motifs that these composers kind of utilize in all their different compositions. That's like their signature John Williams sound or
mm,
something. And so I didn't realize until later in life when I did start to know, like pick up on composers' names and start to study that and like pay attention to that crew more production side. Alan Silvestri, both in both movies for Roger
yes.
Rabbit and for the Back to the Future. So in my mind, I was all I between both movies, watching them at the same time. There was so much coming at me, shared kind of universes between the movies, like similarities. So it was like a wild time very early on for me watching those movies and kind of teaching me right out the gate like the world of cinema is its own magic. Like, people
Yes.
can be five people in one movie. You can hear sounds in one movie that's the sounds of another movie while it still has its own unique sound. Like, I was like, I'm getting an early education through this. So that's why I had to choose Roger Rabbit. And then kind of, I guess, side talked about Back to the Future because they're so tied in for me in my like timeline. But
Oh,
yeah,
you
I
bring up
just
Back to the Future, and I will happily talk about that any day of the week. Like that is like I think we talked about it last time. In my top five, Back to the Future is definitely in it. That's a flick I watch
and that's
every year
right.
without
There you
fail.
go. So we're already like shared on that.
Yeah. Tell me
Another
something.
thing.
Oh, sorry. Go on. Go. Go. Go.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just gonna. Well, if it's on the same topic, I don't want to like go off. I was just gonna
No,
mention.
it's. I was going to wrap up, and I was going to segue to something
Okay.
else. So it's all good. Like you're welcome to jump
Okay.
in.
Okay. I am just trying to, since again, this is the downfall of giving me the opportunity to listen to that prior podcast because I'm like, oh God, I said this, I said that. I have to now give a few little corrections
Oh, Nadia,
because
we are an hour in. Like, don't-
listen, listen. This will be very quick, I swear.
it's
When
all
I was
good.
talking about working with Ari Aster and I mentioned like realizing his name for the first time with Midsommar, obviously I meant Hereditary because that movie came first. But yeah, when Hereditary, like the trailers on TV and the name came up Ari Aster, I was like, why does that name sound like look familiar to me?
Mm,
And then I was like, oh, because I worked with him. Like I don't remember what year Hereditary came out. Was
that's
it 2016?
2018.
Oh God, 2018. That's even like earlier than I or later, whatever than I thought. I thought
Because I
2016. So
remember,
yeah.
I remember hearing about it. Like it was big on the festival circuit. Everyone was talking about it, and that was the first year I decided to stop watching trailers. And the first movie I
Mhm.
went into without watching trailers was Hereditary. And boy, do I wish I'd given myself some prep for that one.
Oh, oh wow. Okay.
That movie
Wow. You
affected me
entered the
in a
world of
big
Ari
bad
Aster
way.
blind.
Yes.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, like I kind of avoid trailers really too,
Mm.
which is hard because I love the art of
Me
trailer
too.
making. So I
Yeah.
actually really love trailers, but so many are so spoilery. But the perfect one gives you just enough of a taste and like sets up the vibe and that tone and atmosphere to like, paint a little you want a little vignette. You don't want the whole damn story.
Yes,
So
and
that's the
I
risk.
will. Obviously, we're forced to in the theater, and that is the best way to watch them. I
Yes.
think. Like
I
I
wait.
saw.
I try to wait. If I know like the new Jurassic Park trailer, that
Mhm.
World or whatever that came out, that and what was it? Shoot, some other like really big one, and now I'm blinking. But they're like a couple recent ones that just came out, and I like did not want to watch it online. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to to the movie soon, and I'm just gonna hope it plays. And it
Mm.
did. So like seeing the Jurassic World trailer like on the big screen, I was like, oh my god, all these dinos look so cool.
Yeah,
Like
I still haven't seen
I
that trailer. I've managed to dodge it. It hasn't been on in the theaters I've been to recently, so I know nothing about it, and I'm glad. I'm just like, leave it.
oh
Like
my god.
I'll see the trailer when I see it, and if I don't see a trailer, all the more
Oh.
power to it.
Like
Um,
even if the story doesn't come together and it's just a mess of whatever continuation of the franchise, visually, these movies never fail me. I mean,
mm,
it is like one of the OG visual, like talk about big films of your life. Like Jurassic Park is like just one of the most big, mind blowing special effects experiences of my lifetime theatrically. Like,
it
and for
comes up
everyone,
all the time on the show. It's like that
oh
is
my,
the one.
how can it not?
Yeah, which
It's
is funny
it's
because that
so
movie was
good.
not part of my childhood. Like, I didn't see Jurassic Park until I was
Real.
grown up. I just, yeah.
My God. See, I was like 10, I think, when it came out. And
Mm,
so I was right at still at the age where I'm like still trying to convince myself that this is not real. And like I know it's
hmm.
not real and I know it's a movie, but like it looked and sounded and everything about it this so real looking. It was like it was battling what I knew was like it was as if you're have an alien encounter and your whole life you're like aliens don't exist and then an alien's in front of you and you're like I know you can't be real because you don't exist. It's like seeing the raptors and the Tyrannosaurus Rex and all that and it just looked I mean the close-ups on the skin and the eyes and the movement and the animatronics combined with a little bit of CGI here and there and just the puppetry all of it working together it was just so realistic. Like
Mm.
I'll tell you, talking about endlessly about podcast, I guess technically probably my first little podcast movie review I ever gave, aside from going to school and like at lunch around all my friends at the like lunch table telling them about all the movies I watched. Cause I did do that with Jurassic Park and I did do
Mm.
that with a lot like Creep Show and Alien and Chucky and all the movies I watched, Tremors, all the movies I watched in early age. Like I would, it's amazing anyone sat with me at lunch. Honestly, I must have been okay at telling stories enough to make
Oh,
them not be like,
you
okay,
are Nadia. Like
bye.
I would have been at that lunch table, just like we would have been fighting for control of conversation. But I would have been there, like, tell me more. Tell me more. Alien was it great? Tell me more. That sounds
Dude, I
amazing.
would just pop off. I was so excited to go and like tell everyone about these movies. And like, I remember when Jurassic Park came out, I was so in love with the whole thing about it. And I loved dinosaurs already from a young
Mm.
age, like seeing a couple of other dinosaur movies first before Jurassic Park. And then just like, I hate to say it, but I never read a lot of books growing up. I still don't. I hate that. And I want to just lifetime focus, whatever.
Mm.
But like, as a kid, I was always a movie person. Like that was the
Yeah.
first medium of art I was drawn to, like a moth to the flame. Like I had a hard time sitting down and reading a book. I loved to flip through picture books though. And
Yes.
if it had a little info, like my favorite kind of books were the how life be like I had a book, I think it's called How Life Began. I don't know, but it's like about essentially like the start of the Big Bang and just it has pictures of space and the galaxy and they're all hand drawn beautifully but like very detailed print type stuff and there's just pictures of dinosaurs going all the way through the different periods Jurassic and all that periods and uh the evolution into like early mammals when they were all every giant sloths and horses and then early man and just I loved looking at the pictures and that kind of segued into then moving pictures into movies. And
Mm.
so it was always like my medium of choice that I just loved. And so when Jurassic Park came out and it really felt like it was like breaking the fourth wall of reality with like, okay, I know dinosaurs are extinct because I've read this in books. I know movies are not real because I've already watched movies a lot at this point at 10 for sure. But
Hmm.
even at 10, having all that other knowledge and experience, I was like, Steven Spielberg is doing things to me in my brain. Like, I can't compute this. And so,
Yeah.
like, we went, speaking of trips, going to LA every summer, that summer after the movie come out, my dad, we went to San Francisco, I think, and that year. And he took me to one of those like Korean spas that are like super fancy and like you get in the robe and there's like all these different rooms with like the massage room and like the hot tub or whatever. And so this place was divided. They're usually, I think, all like this typically, but it's like you have a women's section and then a men's section because people are like walking around in robes and stuff. So they're totally divided off. So I was in the women's section getting a massage. I'm like 10 or whatever. And I am just like popping off, like nonstop mile a minute, just going off about like describing full on synopsis, play by play of Jurassic Park to this like masseuse lady who is probably full blown Korean in terms, probably does not know what the fuck I'm saying. And I'm just like, and there was a raptor, and then, and oh my God, I remember I know I got as far as the first T-Rex attack because I'm pretty sure what probably was it where they finally cut me off and was like, you got to stop, girl. Like you can't. We're in a spa. People are trying to relax and massage. Like you cannot be telling us the full plot of Jurassic Park. But I know I got to the part because I was talking about, I was like, and the T-Rex like tore down the porta potty and the lawyer was in there sitting on the toilet. And I think at that point they were like, enough. That's it. That's it. Here we go. Because I remember someone came in, like I think a guy, and came in from the men's side of the building and was like, we can hear her from the other side of the building talking about raptors and T-Rex and people getting eaten. And I was like, you got to bring it down, girl. So from the start, I have had to learn to like zip it better. I'm like too overzealous about my enthusiasm with these movies. But to something I was going to mention, a tie-in to Jurassic Park is that okay, for one, when I was talking about Captain America, I think I mentioned I mentioned one of the ADs. There's so many like uh assistant directors on all these movies because there's like
Mm,
first AD, second AD, second. I think I mentioned my girl on Saturday night being a first AD. She was actually second. She was a
okay.
second on both movies. Shout out to Gilly. Woo! Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful second AD. I know she's gonna be hitting it to the road to the top any day now because she's like amazing to work with. I love her. But funny enough, I met her and a lot of other people on Captain America, but I did not realize that the actual first AD on Captain America had no idea. Her name is I don't know how to say it correctly, but I know it's Michelle is her first name because everyone was calling her by her first name, but I think it's Michelle Pinelli Venetis, perhaps. But I found out after the movie came out and a lot of the crew, making their posts about the movie, like I worked on it, blah blah blah. They mentioned her, and apparently I have a Jurassic Park connection now because Michelle was apparently the first freaking AD on Jurassic Park
Oh wow.
and on like a shit ton of other stuff. Like I was looking her IMDb up. It was like freaking RoboCop, one of my other favorite LA movies,
Oh my
Ridiculous
god.
Volcano. Like
Oh
she's
my god. I
so
can talk about
good.
RoboCop forever. That movie, I did again, like another film I was late to. I didn't see until I was in my late 20s, which I think with a film of that caliber, no pun intended, and age, like I think it's a risk because it's just so open to aging poorly. That flick like is almost 40 years old and holds up insanely well. Even the stop motion animation looks great from 1987. Like it is impactful and violent and funny. Like it's so funny.
That's
And just
Beerhoven for you, man.
oh man, and that score, just that very simple, like three or four notes as he's driving. Yes.
Oh my
Yes. It's
god.
almost
Oh,
like a
it's
sea
so
shanty. It's
fun.
like, yeah. And I remember when they announced the remake, and I haven't seen it in a while, the remake, but I knew when they announced it was going to be a PG-13, I was like, well, that's not RoboCop, man. Like and
Mhm.
look, it's fine for what is. No disrespect for the people who made that film, the people involved. I think Samuel L. Jackson is having a blast in that remake,
Yeah.
and introduces the world to
Yes.
Joel Kinnaman, who I think is vastly underrated. I think he's a really wonderful actor. But
Yes.
once they told me it was PG-13, I was like, well, there's not going to be any point where two guys hold a hooker, ransom, and then Robocop blows away their dick. Like, it's not going to happen in a PG-13 film, and that's a shame because that's what we need in a Robocop film. Like, that's arguably one of the best scenes in the movie. Not to
Paul
mention the way that
Verhoeven's
he's.
films are not PG-13 for a reason. You can't
Mm,
have that level of so biting social commentary satire,
mm,
which
I
needs the like violence and needs like the scuzzy and the gore and all that.
mm.
It's gotta have everything in your face to have that level of effectiveness, you
Well,
know?
even the way he becomes Robocop, like, he literally has every limb of his body shot off. Like, I never
Oh
understood
my
the idea of writing with a rating in mind. Like, that must be so limiting as a storyteller. Like, and I
God.
imagine that these writers probably, I imagine, I don't know the story behind. I'm sure they weren't like, I'm going to write a new RoboCop film. I think it was probably a committee came and said, hey, we're going to remake RoboCop, PG-13. Keep that in mind when you write the script. And that's so limiting. It's
Yep.
just like, once you get given those constraints, you're obviously, you got one hand tied behind your back. So I think they did the best they could with that material. What they were trying to do, but I just never understood that. Like, I understand that a PG-13 gets more people in the theater and therefore maximizes that
Exactly.
potential profits.
It's the
But
commercial appeal
Terrifier 3
for
showed us
financial.
last year. You don't need to have a rating. Like, Terrifier 3 finally had one of the biggest returns of all time, and that's an unrated film. Yeah, I mean, who knew that
Oh,
was going to
well,
happen?
Terrifier has done a very good job at building its own like cult community.
Yes.
Very specifically for that series and for the director, but also I think just cult horror community has really been trying to grow, especially
Mm,
I think during the pandemic, people just were looking so much for a sense of community in general. And so I
mm,
think that the sense of needing community has been more of an importance after that
mm,
kind of a event in everyone's lives. And so I feel like people are just trying to be more supportive, I think, with indie filmmaking, and the horror is indie filmmaking at its finest. Always
yeah.
has been. So I think that that has garnered so much support and attention because it really is um a very indie horror thing. But
But
something like
also
RoboCop. Oh,
low
sorry.
budget. Sorry, but low budget. That's the other
Exactly.
thing. Like, I still don't understand why, and I don't know if we talked about this last time. We might have touched on Batman a little bit. I'm a huge Batman fan, like most men my age are. Um,
Mm,
but I still don't understand why we need to make a $100 million Batman film. He's a guy in a suit and he's a detective. Like, you don't need to have an explosive third act. Like, I love that new one by Matt Reeves. But when they started blowing down damn walls, I'm like, when was this the plan? I was like, it's fine. Like, it's a great film. Like, it's a really good film. I like it a lot. But
I love the bat. Oh my god, the
yeah,
Batman I think is one of the best comic book films like of the century. It and
yes.
Watchmen and Dread, like
Yes.
they're top
Yes. Oh
tier.
my goodness.
I mean,
Nadia, can we just hang out all the time and talk about the films that we apparently both love?
please, like, oh
Yes.
my god, it's all I want to do. I don't want to have to. Okay, I'll say this: I don't want to have to go to work unless it's making movies or writing about them. But other than that, I just want to eat good food and chill and talk about the things I love. I mean, let's. We would
Yes.
have no fucking war in this world if people could just do the things they actually want to do.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
small caveat without hurting people. Like, do what you want to do as long as it doesn't hurt anyone.
no Patrick Bateman's up in this bitch. Like,
Yeah, please.
we gotta have some like societal rules.
But yeah, like, and like, we just saw it with Honora in the Academy, and we're going on such a huge tangent now. Like, this is my fault. I'm definitely like
Yeah,
taking it away. But like with Honora, like another flick, and Sean Baker. Oh my god, like, I wasn't really familiar with his work. He's someone who's kind of flown under my radar.
me
But
too.
like, listen to him give every speech he's given over the awards circuit. I'm like, I will buy every ticket to every film you release from now on because you're so passionate about the medium. And it doesn't matter whether it's indie film or not. He's obviously a big kind of flag waver for indie film, and rightfully so. But he's just talking about the theatrical experience. He's like, get your butt in the theater, like, go and support film. Um, and you don't need $100 million to tell a great story. Like, you can do it quite cheaply. And that's
Look at Godzilla -1.
Oh my
You know,
god! Well, again, like another one, like another triumph of a film. It's just, I understand.
freaking the brutalist. I
Yeah,
mean, this is definitely a trend we're seeing.
look, I understand Disney throwing $100 million at Avengers Endgame. I get it. And it was a lot more than $100 million, mind you. It was a very expensive film. I understand that, but I think there's this trend that's been set since I want to say 2009. It might be before then, but ever since Avatar came out and showed that you can
Mm,
make $1 billion at the box office, every studio's kind of perked up and be like, oh, well, I want that. All right, let's shelve these $30 million Julia Roberts comedies. Let's shelve these indie films.
mm,
Let's not worry. Let's just, let's chase that $1 billion. And how are we going to do that? Well, we'll jack up the prices of the ticket, and that way, the theater
mm,
will have less margin because otherwise they won't have anyone come at all, and we'll get to $1 billion quicker. And it's like, bro, if you
mm,
left the ticket price the same, the theater would get their margin. You'd still get to $1 billion because you get more people coming and more
mm,
repeat viewers. Like I went and saw Infinity War 3 times in the cinemas. And that's no, not even a ton of times, but I went and saw it. Like I don't know. Like there's this greed, and I don't like using that word lightly, but it is very
mm.
driven by that dollar. I understand it's a business, but
Absolutely.
like
It's business before the art,
yeah. Oh,
unfortunately.
look,
And
it is the entertainment business. Like business is part of that equation. But I think like when you start alienating the majority of your customer base by outpricing them and just chasing this one idea, like that's why we're seeing half empty theaters or quarter empty. I went and saw The Monkey last night. That's been out for 2 weeks, and there were 10 of us in there. And that is an
mm,
Osgood Perkins film. Like he just came off the
I know
success of
just had huge
Longlegs.
success.
It's a Stephen King property, which the films made on on his books tend to be kind of hit and miss, but I always
Mhm.
enjoy them. And like that's a name you can bank on. It had
Definitely.
I'm trying to think who the stars were in it now. You got Theo James, who probably isn't a huge name in America, but he's still he's an entertaining guy. But even like actors aside, like you've got those two
Yeah,
names.
it's
Like
She-Hulk in it, you know?
yeah, that's right,
Bringing
Tatiana
it back
Maslany.
to
Yeah.
comic book movies.
Mm. It's just insane. Like, and again, like I'm getting on a soapbox now. I'm very
Ah,
passionate about this sort of thing.
no,
Uh,
no. Well, it's like, I was in You're Cordially Invited, and I went, I only got to see it in theaters because Amazon Studios had that one night only theatrical little event. But it really, really, really suffered not being a theatrical release because you
mm,
need comedy in theaters. You need that communal sense. Again, talking about community, not just in horror. But I think a big part, I mean, when you go to a comedy club, you're not one on one in a room with the comedian and it's
no,
just you and him.
absolutely.
It's not the same dynamic, it is not the same energy that you have. Like, again, when you go to a theater, you don't see a play and you're the only person there
No.
and they're performing for you, only you. Like, it is meant to be you're supposed to sit in the dark with a bunch of other strangers or friends and both, whatever, and you're supposed to laugh together. And it's like, I can't believe we don't have more comedies and things like movies
What
like
happened
that.
to the genre?
Oh
Like the
God,
two
it's like
films you need community
streaming.
for,
It's just
comedy and
streaming
horror.
an option, so that's just where it gets thrown, and it sucks because especially after, the political landscape of my country and in the world in general, because when you get bad leaders in, it obviously affects world politics too, not just local shit. So it's like everyone's in a bad rap right now, and I think that what we need so badly is some sense of community to bring us together because you're never going to come together if you feel always apart, and then you're not going to, when you want to come together, you're not going to feel like you have something to fight for. You
Yeah.
need a sense of community to fight for. And so it's like, if we can all come together in the dark and you don't know who is supporting who voted for who, and
Mm,
you can't see the color of someone's skin, you're just all staring in one direction straight ahead and you're not looking at each other. I mean, I like this. If I've seen a movie before, sometimes I do like to look into the audience and like see
yeah.
their reactions.
Me too.
But
Me too.
generally speaking, yeah, first run experience, you are like glued to the big screen, but you're laughing
Mm,
simultaneously together with these strangers, and you may fight them on the street normally because they're, you know, a supporter of this and that ideology that like maybe is even against your existence as a human being, right to exist. But in that movie theater, it is a sacred, safe space where you both laugh at the, same stupid Will Ferrell joke.
mm.
And that's so important. And we don't get that if it's thrown on the streaming service immediately. So it's just
and
like,
it's and it's not an audience being too woke thing, because that's something that's thrown around a lot, and a lot of people, and particularly maybe comedians who haven't experienced much success, they'll throw that out there. Our audiences are too woke now. I'm sorry. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has been the top show for the last decade, and that is proving that you don't need to be woke.
no,
Like you can
people
say
love
what
raunchy, irreverent comedy.
funny is funny. Um,
Yes, and you're supposed to laugh at things that that's what humor and comedy is it is okay to laugh at the things that you're not supposed to laugh at outside of the comedic space. Like, when and you're making a true joke and presenting it as a joke, it's not like some creep saying something gross in an office cooler space, like, and passing it off as a joke. Like, you're
Mm.
clearly making a thing or presenting a joke as itself, so you take it as that. Like, you can laugh at the most horrible, inappropriate things in the appropriate setting where you're going to a movie or you're going to a comedy show or whatever, and you are walking into that experience accepting that whatever that is going to be said, it is okay to laugh at, and you should laugh at it because we need to laugh.
Yes,
Like, it
absolutely.
literally releases endorphins in your body to laugh. Like, the more you laugh, everything's going to be better for everyone. Again, if we laughed more, there'd be less war too. So it's like, it just, I do, it sucks because I actually do love comic book movies, and I've even appreciated them even more and more over the years, because there was a good span of time where I was pretty just like very whatever about them. I'd go see them, but I just really didn't have a lot of interest for most of them. And
Sure. Yeah.
I think that Infinity War and Endgame really changed that for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then on that same
Yeah.
note, it was like both the rise and fall in the same two movies. It was
Mm,
so big and it got so much interest, but then it was like done. And
yeah.
then so many things split off into different movies and a lot of different shows now you got to keep up with, and people have like their own like series and stuff. So it's like it kind of was a change in
Yes.
like the universe and how it was being uh delved out to and presented in its stories. And so that kind of did affect things, but I feel overall it does suck that the comic movies really kind of usurp like the auditoriums,
Mm,
because they are so expensive to make versus these other things that are you could have like 15 Godzilla minuses ones for like one Marvel movie or whatever. But like it's tough because then, I mean, something like minus one shows you that you could do amazing special effects on like a very seemingly minuscule budget for what you're putting out there. However, the general nature of comic book movies that I feel like a lot of people forget, because a lot of and I actually don't, unfortunately, again, because I don't really read that much. I hate it. But like that includes comics, even things that like are so visual. And I still just don't even sit down with any book of any kind in my hand, hardly.
mm,
So like I haven't really had a chance to read a lot of comics myself. And most of the comics that I have read are actually not superhero comics. So I haven't
yeah.
even had a chance to really delve into a lot of Superman, Spider-Man. I have read Frank Miller Batman stuff. Bit of
Nice.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's was a good one.
Did
It's
you
a
hear?
good
Did you
one.
hear the nerd come out there? I'm like, yeah, Frank Miller Batman. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
this good stuff. Oh my god! I definitely want to see a girl Robin at some point with the short
Yes.
hair.
Well,
Like,
I
oh my
think
god.
a lot of us thought that was going to happen with Zack Snyder's, because Jenna Malone was cast and she's a redhead, and everyone's like, "Oh,
Oh,
redhead girl who works with Zack Snyder, it's got to be Carrie Kelly Robin." And then she wasn't even in the theatrical cut; she was in the extended cut. Um, which is a whole other story. Yeah, I agree. I think, like Gunn's doing his thing. We're getting a child age Robin this time, which is good. I think that's a good step. I think it's weird when it's a 40-year-old
yeah.
man, but if we learn anything from Kick-Ass, it's that you can cast, 7-year-old
Yes,
Chloe Grace Morris and it works.
yes. I was gonna
Um,
say, Kick-Ass showed us a taste of that Frank Miller kind of approach, because I
which,
think
by the
that.
way, was 15 years ago. Like they set the
Oh my
template almost two
god.
decades ago. We still haven't got it in the mainstream, but we'll get there.
It's crazy. But yeah, like it's a shame because I do think it gets forgotten that like the nature of comic book storytelling is very generally dependent. I mean, there's so many different stories, but
Mm,
especially when you get stuff that takes place intergalactic, like
mm,
Guardians, and you've got people like super, like, because it's one thing, Batman, for instance, and Batman is different than Spider-Man.
mm,
You've got something I actually really loved, and I hate that Captain America has gotten a lot of negative reviews. And actually, I saw it a second time because I was like, I need to see it again, to see myself, my friends, but also to like pay attention to the movie more again, like I was saying. But like, it was crazy because like when the movie ended and the credits were rolling, there were like kind of two separate big groups of people that were in there with me
mm,
that happened to just be in there. And as they were leaving, I overheard both of them saying the same sentiment, which was, oh, I actually am really surprised. I really actually like this movie considering how bad the reviews are. Like the reviews are
Mm,
so bad. I was expecting to go in not to like this movie, and I actually really enjoyed it. And
mm.
I overheard both kind of crowds walking out, kind of echoing that same sentiment. So
Well, that
it's like,
flick is a fascinating one, and it's interesting because you mentioned you haven't read many of the comics, but when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America in the comics, I was shocked that the real world responded the way that they did in the comic books, like life imitated art, where it was very much he's not my Captain America. Like they literally put that in the books, and then
it's like
when
missing. It's very ironic. It's
it's
like
very
missing the
ironic,
entire
but
message.
he's a different Captain America. Like those first three films, you can't compare them. The first three, Chris Evans is playing a very stoic, a very serious. He's a grounded,
Yes.
invested soldier from 1940s. Like he
Yes.
was in World War II. He was fighting Nazis. Like, of course, his attitude is gonna be very different to a
Right.
modern day African American man. I liked
Yeah.
seeing Captain America have fun. I liked seeing a Captain
Yes.
America who could get hurt, who could get knocked down. Like, don't get me wrong, Chris Evans,
Yes.
wonderful in the role, and I love the kind of super heroic kind of aura he brings to the screen. Like that man is very, very close to a god. But like seeing
Oh.
Anthony Mackie do it, like with a little bit of swag, like it reminded me of like seeing Will Smith in the '90s. Like kind of he
Mm.
is an action star, but he has to take a punch every now and then. Like it was nice seeing Captain America like struggle. Like which
Yes.
if he is a representative of America, like not to get too
We
political,
struggling right now, dog. We
America's struggling right
struggling.
now. Like America's
We
taken a
are
few
not
hits. Like
strong.
you
No.
know,
We are not the Captain America, the Chris Evans Captain America, strong with the muscles popping out, holding the helicopter to the
Mm.
roof of that building. That is not the America we are right now. We don't got that strength. We are the flailing, struggling America trying to figure out our identity still after all this time, and how we fit in, and can we get this job done right. And there's a lot of pressure on our shoulders, and to people
Yeah.
depending on us. I mean, it's a lot. No,
Which
I
is
really
okay,
liked
by
that
the way.
approach.
Like we all struggle. Like Captain America struggled, real America struggling. It's okay to
Right.
struggle. Like, but yeah, I don't know. I can see the critiques of the film where it does feel a little bit mismatched. I know they changed a few things, and like the plot was but it sounds like they cut some characters out. So I understand all that, and I understand the critique that it's more of a sequel to an Incredible Hulk film than a Captain America film. But like, that sort of stuff doesn't bother me. Like I
Right.
think
I mean,
like
again, it's the nature of the comics. Like, you've got characters crossing into each
mm,
other's worlds, and sometimes the stories will kind of focus a little more on shift here and shift there. I mean, it's like, I think people are divorcing the comic book movie from the comic book genre too much, and not forgetting the origins of the comic book movies are from comic books. So, like I said, when you've got stuff like people with superpowers, and you're going into space, and you're going into different dimensions, and you've got alien beings and gods and all the shit,
mm,
that is epic visuals.
yeah.
And it's going to cost a lot of money to do that. So you do, unfortunately, now you can, depending on the story and the characters and their powers and the circumstances and the locations and all that jazz, you can do a comic book movie for less money. But if
Mm,
you're going to be doing Guardians and they're like on 9 different planets in one movie,
mhm.
if you try to cheat that, it's going to look even shittier than the shit people are complaining about now. So it's like,
And
you
this
have
might
to,
sorry, go
it's
on.
got to be grand and epic visually. That's what the medium has called for. And you can draw that easier than you can put it on the screen.
And look, and this might sound like a cop out, but like cuz I take my love of movies very seriously, but I don't take the movies themselves seriously. Like we have to remember the day these are fictional stories.
Mm.
Like yes, we've been living in a wonderful era, and specifically the comic book genre, or like comic books in a genre, but you know what I mean. Like adapting these comic books to superhero genre, we've had a very interesting time where they've made a consistently excellent output of films. They've all been like, and I think a big part of it for the general audience is surprise. Like, oh, this is actually really good because for some reason, like, the general audience is very dismissive. Comic books are for kids. This is kids stuff. Why would I like it? And then they've, Disney in particular with Marvel, but even, Warner Brothers has some hits, consistently telling really good, relatable stories. But I'm sorry, like, if you go into Captain America and you walk out of that film and, like, don't think it was, like, executed well enough or wasn't serious enough, I just have to say to you, like, what? The one with the big red Hulk? Like that one, but that one was too silly for you. Like it's the big red
Well,
Hulk.
it's
Like,
it's
do you know
it's
what I mean?
kind of
Like
like when people argue about like something like Godzilla movie. like Godzilla doesn't move realistically. It's like, how is a Godzilla supposed to move realistically?
Yeah.
It's not realistic. Like, well, it's like the laws of physics with his weight and the shifting of his movement. I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, there's got
Yeah.
to be some agreement here when you're walking into these movies.
Suspension of disbelief. Like
Yes.
even in like I'm sorry, like even in the most like heartfelt inspired biopics, artistic liberties are taken. I can't tell you how many biopics
Yeah.
I've watched, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I read about it. Like, do you know how heartbroken I was after watching Saving Mr. Banks? First of all, because it's a heartbreaking film, but then to find out that that is not how the story went at all, I was like,
Wait, is
oh,
that with Tom Hanks being Walt Disney and he's like, "Hey, hey!"
yeah,
Is that okay?
that's
I
him, and
never
how like
saw
he
that.
and E.L. Travers like, and apparently like because in the film they're like she went to the premiere and she loved the movie and everything was okay. I was like, oh my god, this film has just this story has such a happy ending. Then I read the trivia and like that is not how it went. And she hated the movie, and I was
Mm.
like, okay, so even in biopics we're taking artistic license. We need to remember, guys, that yes, like film is important. Of course, it's important. Like it's the most important thing to me in the world aside from obviously my family and friends. But like the way I
Feel like I have
navigate.
to put that in there.
Yeah,
I love movies so much. Oh, and my family and friends too.
the
Yeah,
way that I navigate this world, the way that I communicate people is made easier because of the medium of film. I'm an awkward, weird guy.
that's
Like film makes
true.
my life so much easier. Like it helps me communicate ideas. However, at the end of the day, it's a bunch of grown adults, and I don't mean this in a dismissive way, Nadia, because it's your profession. It's a bunch of grown adults making pretend all day, being silly.
Oh my god,
Like,
that's true.
do you know what I mean? Like
We're
Tobin
not
Bell
curing
isn't
cancer
cutting
here.
people up and making and turning people into flesh puzzles like in Saw. Like that is not Tobin Bell's real life career. Like at the end of the day, he's just a man. Like Anthony Mackie is not really Captain America, but he did a pretty good job convincing me that he was. Like that's the thing that bugs me. That and like this new trend that's been going on for a couple of years is people online just commenting, nobody asked for this. I don't know if I've gone this rant
Mm,
before. Like if I like that is the epitome of someone who has nothing to contribute to a conversation. So they say nobody
no,
asked for this. Do you know what else nobody asked for? Star Wars. Nobody asked for The
right.
Godfather. Nobody asked for Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody asked for Jurassic Park. Nobody asked for Jaws. Nobody asked for The Exorcist. So I guess we should throw them all in the bin, Nadia, like based on what the commenters online are telling me, because nobody asked for those great films.
I mean, a lot of like just general basic inventions people didn't ask for. People just thought about like this would be cool or this
Yeah,
would make life easier or better. No, it's like maybe sometime. And I mean, and come on, artwork. Did anyone ask for art? It's art.
no,
Like
no.
it's an form of self expression. No one asked for this. Like that's the point of its beauty is that no one asked for this.
I'm sorry,
Like
Nadia.
when
Very
people
different
ask,
tone this time. I'm getting on a soapbox a lot today.
oh my God. No, I hear you. I hear you. And it's like it's tough too because again, talking about the nature of comic books and comic book movies by proxy, it's like they are usually epic and grand by nature and visual scope and the storytelling. There's lots of characters. There's people coming in and out. There's people dying and then coming back to life all the time. There's people switching bodies and minds
Mm,
and new Captain America's, new Iron Man's, new Spider-Man. I mean, like that's why you get something like Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Like you wouldn't have a Spider-Verse if there was one Spider-Man the whole time. Like there is no that is not my Captain America because there's not just one Captain America. There may be like your personal favorite, but there is not one objective. This is the golden standard, the one that is the only one existence because that's not the nature of the medium of the storytelling of comic books. So it's
mm,
like people just kind of forget the source material and like how that the movies are taking from comic books the books. And so it's going to follow the same kind of formulas and the approaches. And so there's going to be a bunch of characters and people dying and coming back and, new actors stepping into the roles of these beloved iconic characters because that's always how it's been,
mm.
whether it's on the page or on the screen. So it's just a weird like mindset to me. It's like, do y'all even know what you like? Like if you like you know what you like, then you should know that this is how it goes. If you into comic book stuff, like expect this.
Yeah, it's really frustrating as a fan, and I went through. I don't know if we talked about this last time, um, but I went through something during the pandemic. It was right around the time. It was either right around the time my daughter was born or just before she was born, and I was kicking back watching movies, and I was sort of just taking stock, evaluating. And I was like, I love these. So why do I not like 75% of the movies I'm watching? I become so bitter. And like again, the name of the podcast, is it itself a bit of a fiction. Was I a teenage film star? Maybe not so much a teenage one, but in my 20s, oh boy, definitely.
Oh,
So pretentious. And I was sitting there and I was like, if I'm not enjoying 75% of the movies I'm watching, is it a movie problem or is it a me problem? Because you know what they say about jerks. You meet one jerk, you met a jerk. You meet 12 jerks that day, maybe you're the jerk. So I was like, maybe I'm just taking this too seriously. And so I kind of took stock of it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to choose a bunch of films I would never ever watch because they look awful to me. And I'm just going to try and find the positives in it. And that was the miracle cure. And now I don't dislike, like it sounds fake. I know how ridiculous it sounds.
no,
I don't
no,
dislike
I agree
anything
with
anymore.
you.
I just will watch it, and if
It,
it's something that doesn't strike a chord with me, I'll try to find something I do like about it. Like, what is it?
Absolutely. No, no, no. Yeah, that's exactly like, I know it sounds like you're trying to be like phony and like, oh, like I love movies so much. Like I just a
Mm,
big cinephile. But like, no, 100%. Like that mentality has definitely affected like how I watch movies and how I think of them. And it's like changed my mindset too, because I
mm.
really hardly come across a movie that there's not something I can't see good in or enjoy. Like people were just like, shitting on Madam Web so bad last
I
year,
was
and
going to
I
use that as an example. Go,
oh my
please tell me. Yeah.
god. Okay, yeah, I ended up like writing kind of a long leg style like freeform thought quote unquote review on Madam Web, and it ended up being like shockingly long. Like I ended up
Yeah.
talking about like flowing like the water like Bruce Lee. I mean, I was bringing up like I brought up all this stuff. Like Madam Web was like surprisingly had more going on than like I thought, despite all the like Pepsi commercial product placement in it. Like,
Mm.
like oh my god, just you can. I don't know. I think it just you how you choose your focus, your energy. You can choose it to tear something down and shit on it, and you can still laugh at it, but recognize that it's not a total waste of space and shouldn't exist. Like there
100%.
are a lot of things about even movies I wouldn't consider good that I'm glad the movie still exists because it still could have good or interesting things within it, but still not be an overall like what I'd consider a good movie. So I just and sometimes I think too, like even with Madam Web, I feel like sometimes, especially with Dakota Johnson's performance, like she feels in general, like as an actress and like as a person, she kind of carries this vibe to me. Like she's very self-aware
Mm.
and kind of like, I don't know, kind of like fucks around with like interviews and stuff with people. Like she
Yeah.
just, especially during that Madam Web like campaign run, like, oh my God, like I think she knew like what the movie was before
Yeah.
most people did and was willing to accept it for what it is and just have fun with it and be like, yeah, this is what it is, like.
Honestly, I think the biggest problem with that film is not the film. I think the biggest problem with that film is the marketing. They advertised it as a Spider-Man
Mhm,
film, and what they should have advertised it
mhm.
was like a fun Final Destination style, like premonition thriller. And then, like, it still would have been the film that it was. But I think there's a lot to enjoy in that flick. I think the girls are having a great time, like opposite each other. Their chemistry is really good.
Great,
Um,
Kim.
they're fantastic in it. I think it's I like that it's set in the early 2000s. I like that it's kind of cheesy and stuff. Like it just ultimately coming back to what I was saying before about the quality of comic book film. We've audiences have been trained now that like if the Marvel name is on it, like it is going to be a stamp of quality, and it's going to be these kinds of films. It's going to exceed your expectations every single time. But if it's going to extend, if you keep expecting it to exceed your expectations, like whose fault is that? Like
Yeah, it's like
manage
not
it.
every
Yeah.
movie and every story is going to be an Infinity War Endgame
Mm.
or an Iron Man 2 or something like, and that's again the nature I feel like of the comics. Like I feel like this would probably be true the more I would read them and notice, but it's like not every story is like an A story or whatever. You
Yeah.
have like B stories and side stories and little off stories and like sometimes things are filler or connective tissue and sometimes just little off, little side thing. Like not everything is an origin story or like an end of the world. Everything's at stake. Like
Yeah.
there is the in between stuff, and I think that I do get people's frustration where you don't want like to spend like $200 million on an in between stuff story. So there's
Sure.
got to be some like middle ground there. And I think if the genre can find more of a middle ground where maybe they're not taking up so many resources like in the like finances and in the theaters and stuff with so many auditoriums like and pushing out other things because of it, like I think that's why too people resent their existence, is that it's not delivering the kind of standard they have built up in their minds from
Mm.
like the handful of movies in DC and Marvel that are definitely bangers, and so they just think that every movie should be like that. But again, not every comic book story is going to be like as good as one particular like stellar issue, that everything
Mm.
comes to a head and it's just like not every issue is like that. But people don't a lot like I don't know, I feel like a lot of people, probably at least half or maybe more of people who watch comic book movies don't read comic books. So I don't think they're coming when they go to see the comic book movie, they're not thinking about it from that angle.
Oh, I would
Like,
say most, and unfortunately, the few that are the ones who are causing the most problems online. Because I remember, I want to say in 2016, I was not a comic book reader as a kid. I wasn't allowed to read comic books. My parents kind of thought they were a bit silly and a waste of money, which is
mm.
fine. That's totally fine. That is total parent
Were you the
behavior.
kid in the beginning of Creep Show, like on your bed, like with
Yeah.
the voodoo doll, like pushing the pins in it, cursing your parents, like they won't let me buy my comics?
Oh yeah, my parents are a mess now, and it's all my fault. Um,
Ah,
but back,
revenge.
yeah, that's it. I was like, you will. In
You will
26,
pay for
that's
keeping
it.
me.
That's
Oh
it. But
my
in
god.
2016, I was like, you know what? I keep watching these films. I watch them over and over again. I should really like go back and check them out. So in 2016, for about 4 or 5 years, I just became a rampant comic book buyer and reader. Like I just would buy everything on the shelf. Like I had a little bit of
Mm.
disposable income. I didn't have a mortgage or a child, so I was
You're
like,
like,
let's
no
just.
one's stopping me now,
I'm
baby.
just gonna I'm like not even kidding. I would like drop $100 a
Reliving my
week on comics.
childhood.
Like yeah,
Woo!
and I would just buy it all up because I was like, if I'm gonna watch these things, like it's the same if you watch a movie based on a book. Like you can't compare the two. They're always going to exist in two different mediums. How can The Shining, the book, be the same as The Shining, the film? It can't be. Like they're two so different mediums. I think
Mhm.
nothing illustrates this point more than the Harry Potter series. Like the longer those movies go on, the less accurate they are, but still wonderfully entertaining. But I was like, I should really do this. And then, like as I was reading, I was like, oh my goodness, like there's so much to these. Like my parents were wrong because there's so much like to get out of this, and like, but just visually they're stunning. And it took me a while to get used to the fact that people don't have to look like people in comic books; they can look quite cartoony and silly. Like, that's the whole point. Um,
Mhm.
but I do wish that the only reason that I stopped was because well, my store stopped stocking new issues, but also became
Oh.
it became cost prohibitive. Like the price of books just went up and up and up and up. I was like, I'm going to spend this much money. I'm going to buy Blu-rays. Like I'm just going to go back into my movie
Yeah,
collection.
you kind of have to. That's the thing too. You can't buy every issue. You can't buy every new release of a Blu-ray.
Mm,
Like at some point, like being a collector of all the media,
mm.
all the video games, all the comics, all the movies, is like it adds up, and then you also run out of physical space in your home. You're like, okay, it's the cat or the movies. I got to choose. We don't have room for everybody in here.
And that is the ongoing battle because I don't want streaming to win. I want physical to stay true, and I'm like one of the last last battalions on the field there. But I am at a point where I'm like, how many more bookshelves can I fit? Like I moved my collection to my garage, into my garage into a cinema, and I'm running out of space.
I feel
Like
like every collector feels like they are like the last man standing on
I
their
know I
own
sound like an
island
internet
with their
troll, don't
vault.
I?
No, no. It's like everyone feels it's like we are all just feeling like on such the brink of apocalypse, I guess,
Mm.
especially in now modern times at this point. So it feels like everyone feels like the things that they're collecting, they're like trying to like salvage the last vestiges of like humanity's existence of the arts. Like these are the things that when we have World War III and we're living in bunkers, I'll have like the my last copy of The Hitcher on release. Like
What a pull! Like you could
I
have said
waited
anything
so
and you
long
chose
for
the
that to
Hitcher.
come out. I waited so long for that release. I'm gonna take it with me to the bunker.
That's so funny. It's true though. Although, like, I remember, like, in my job, I encounter a lot of new staff. I do some onboarding and stuff, And in a group that I was running last year, there was a girl who was maybe 19 years old, very young, and she was an American girl. And when I mentioned I collected Blu-rays, she didn't know what I was talking about. And I was like, "Oh, they're like fancy DVDs." Um, and she was like, "All right," like she literally like first day on the job, "All right, Grandpa." And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
wow, this girl's got some balls. So I was like, look, I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm going to lecture you now on the reason why we're having strikes in America and why no one's making films at the moment. And I did like a 10-minute bit on why the strikes and why like
Oh,
actors are fighting for money. And at the end of it, she was like, okay, so DVDs. I'm like, DVDs. Uh,
oh my gosh. You were like, I can't with this. I
I was
have
like, if you're going to call me grandpa, then grandpa's going to take you to school. So
Yeah,
let's just,
grandpa's got to sit down and have a little lesson.
yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, the last thing I was going to say about Captain America, we went on a whole journey there with
Nadia,
that.
I have come to accept the fact that we may never get through your list, but I will have you on as often as you want because this is some of my favorite conversation ever. Like I like that we can just pick up like old friends as if we haven't seen each other in a while, and they're like, "Hey, so let's talk movies. Do we have a plan? We do, but throw that plan out the window because this is way more fun." I'm having an absolute blast, so don't worry about that.
Oh my God. Okay, okay. Well, I was going to mention quickly because I forgot to mention it before is that I don't think I brought it up actually, but on Captain America, I totally got scanned. So Disney owns me now.
Oh wow,
They own my ass forever. My whole body image likeness forever. They got it.
wow.
Walt, I'm there in there with Walt now. So hopefully, if there is an apocalyptic, breakdown of society, it'll be me and Walt coming back from the grave as like Michael Jackson, like drone projections or something, or I'll take whatever. If they've got me scanned so they could come up with my image somehow.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
you've just pitched the greatest movie of all time. I want to see a post-apocalyptic buddy cop film with you and Walt Disney as the leads. Like that's what I
Like
want.
we
Well,
wake up like 2000 years in the future and we're like, wow, all right. So what we doing?
we've still got Hanks. He can reprise his role from Save Mr. Banks. It can be kind of a pseudo sequel, but it's also the
Oh
Terminator.
my God. We're like
It's
in the year 4000 with like the Planet of the Apes, and Walt's like, ha ha. I'm like, oh my God. No,
avenging
I
Mr.
was,
Banks.
oh my God. No, it was wild. Like, people were not quite sure what to think about it,
Mm,
especially because this was like before the strikes with
yeah.
the whole AI scanning thing. Anyway, that was part of that. So, like, it was a pretty big, like, with all the backgrounders, it was like we were all talking about it, like, whoa, scanning. Like, what they're actually scanning? Well, how are they doing it? We were all whispering because they were apparently just the easiest way to do it given the nature of the setup in between takes and everything, and just we had such a large group of people. But like I said, they were having to shift us in groups according to which side of that of either room, either the front of the White House scene that I did or the East Room conference. Like, there were just so many sides of the room they were getting different coverage on. So if we were like in holding in our downtime, they would apparently, like, in groups, they were like trying to snag us and take us over to the scan trailer that they had on the lot. And eventually they got me. But I'll be honest, I kind of let myself got because there were I did. I didn't. I fought it for a few days, and I kind of thought about it. Was talking to people about it because we were like, it was kind of controversial. Like, a lot of the actors were like, "Fuck no!" Like, hell no, they're not getting me scanned. I'm gonna dodge it every time they're looking for me. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'm just gonna walk away. Like, I'm not doing it at all because they don't pay extra for it.
Mm,
So, and then also too, like, we didn't know if we'd already signed something. Like, people were talking about, like, oh, in our check-in paperwork, like, they had something, so we already like signed away for it. So people were like, what? Like, I didn't sign for this, blah blah blah. But it's like tough because like every movie has different ways in which you check in, and like a lot of it now is electronic. So like
yeah, sure.
before your first day of production, you usually get your start paperwork and all the stuff you have to fill out, and you can do it, thankfully, most of the time on your phone. But a lot of productions, even surprising ones, some like Marvel, sometimes still do like paper vouchers, which you have to do all your information, write it out by hand on paper, which is just like a lot. And then, especially like if you're having to do any kind of paperwork at all, physical paperwork where you're having pen and writing it down, like the check-in process, especially for like a scene that we did like that, where it has like probably at least 100 people roughly, then that's like getting into cattle call territory at that point.
Yeah.
So like when you're checking in, especially the first day and you're signing all that paperwork, like it is such an expedited process. Like you are in such a long line. Everyone's got all their bags and their fold out chairs. A lot of people bring their fold out chairs to set because they don't want to sit in the shitty plastic chairs that you're usually in. So they'll bring like nice lawn chairs. But like I'm little. I already got my shit. Like the last thing I need is to freaking have something else to lug with me. So I just kind of take one with that, and I never bring my own chair because I'm like, I can't carry anything else. Like I already have my luggage bag of clothes and my bag of all my other stuff, and I usually have like coffee bottle in one hand and water bottle in the other, and I'm like, I do not have any other way to carry like a freaking lawn chair on my back too. Like I'm just not a mule, you know. I don't know how some of these people do it. They like come in with like full, some people bring hammocks to set. I'm like, how did you
Wow.
carry that? Especially sometimes too, if you're like, on a studio lot, you're not driving your car right up to the frickin' sound stage. So you're getting transpoed on like vans oftentimes, usually most times on set. It's a very nice luxury when you can just like drive your car right up to the set. You're usually having to get shuttled on and off vans, which takes forever, and you got all your stuff, and it's just like a whole thing. So like when you're checking in and you're signing a bunch of freaking paperwork, it's already like, oh man, this is going to take extra long. And the poor PAs, the one or two PAs that's checking in 100 people at 6 in the morning, and everyone's, grumpy because they're tired and they're half asleep and they're carrying a bunch of shit in their hands and they just want to get signed in into the system, make sure they're getting paid, and then they want to go sit down and holding and then go getting hair and makeup ready and get breakfast, whatever. It's like a whole every morning on the set is so rushed on any set. There's
Yeah.
just so much to do. So like if you're having to sign physical paperwork, you are not going to have time to actually sit there and read it. Everyone says, "Oh, read everything before you sign it." Well, great. On paper, that is what you should do. But in reality, in the moment, when you're just like getting ushered through like freaking cattle, like you don't have time and they don't want you to read it. Like
No.
if
No, no, no.
if the PAs like actually had people read through that paperwork, we would never start filming because we'd still be checking in everybody at like 3 hours, 4 hours later. So like no one knew if they actually had signed any actual paperwork to be scanned. So we were like, oh my God, did we like sign this away? Like our freaking personhood away in perpetuity, like to Marvel. We didn't even know it. So it was like this whole thing, and it was just like nuts. But eventually I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna do it. I want to know what it's like. And like I don't have kids right now, and I don't know if I'll ever get kids. And like so that's kind of a way of like I feel, you know, promoting the lineage in the future, and you kind of a way of
Mm.
like, you kind of get a little carbon copy of yourself in a way, or it's just a way to like kind of live live on through someone else. And
I
so
was gonna say there's almost like an element of legacy to it. Like obviously you would rather
exactly
have control of your legacy and control that narrative, but
right.
there is that idea, one of the reasons we do these things, one of the reasons we love to tell stories is that we hope that one day people will tell stories about us. We want to keep that narrative going, and we want to have. I don't know if it's necessarily that we all want to feel like we mattered. I'm sure, like deep down, we all kind of want that at some point, or we left
We
some
all
sort of
want
stamp.
that, absolutely.
But legacy, just the idea of like, yeah, I was here. I was on this tiny rock
Yeah,
hurling through space, and this is what I did. And in the grand scheme of the infinite universe, maybe it didn't mean much to most, but it meant something to me. And if you want to check it out, like Captain America's on
I'm
DVD,
here.
but also
I'm here, and
I've got an AI scan.
I could be seen. It's like, yeah, like you said, it's just like proof that, hey, Nadia was here,
Mm,
like writing your name on the little cast board, like, in
yeah,
a production on the little board they leave in the sound stages. It's like, it's just a little memento of your existence. And if you don't have kids, it's kind of getting scanned, I guess, in my mind. I was like, this is a way that I guess I can kind of exist beyond my physical self at some point. It's weird to think about, but when you think of like AI, and there've been movies about like people putting their minds into machines, into computers, and trying to freeze yourself like Demolition Man style or something. It's like people are trying to think about ways in which that you don't just live and die and that's it. And you just disappear forever. And it's like you never existed. And what's crazy to think about too is like, depend like your existence even outside of like in your legacy only exists as long as the people who knew you were also alive. Once there's
Mhm.
because about they say every 100 years the earth and the world gets like a whole new set of people. So it's like unless you are can be seen in something or you've done something that people will remember and write about or you've made an impact, you're on a building somewhere, you're in a book, you're in a movie, you can be pointed to in a movie 100 years from now and someone can watch Saturday Night or Captain America or anything 100 years from now theoretically, and everyone I know who could tell my story in real time would be dead. Like in
Mm,
the world, it's like I did never existed. There would be no one to speak for me, but
mm.
someone could pop in a Blu-ray of Saturday Night, whatever artifact 200, if the Planet of the Apes could find a Bluray player in Saturday Night and put it in and theoretically see me 4,000 years in the
They'll
future,
be like, "That's Nadia's arm. I recognize that."
Lord Michael, oh my God. That's definitely what Caesar and Ursus and all of them, Dr. Zaius, he will be pausing me and being like, the Saturday Night arm. No, they'll be talking about that.
They'll build a shrine to it, just everywhere, just statues of arms.
Oh my
Like,
God.
what does it mean? We don't
Oh
know,
my
but we saw it in a
God.
film.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Like,
Also, we never watched the initial run of Saturday Night Live, so it doesn't have a lot of context for us, but we do like the people on it. They're very funny. Um,
oh God, no. So it was a trip getting scanned. I'll say that. Like
yeah.
you got to step into the booth, and there's like 200 cameras that all flash at once at
Oh,
you, and
wow.
you have to stand still. Yeah, it's crazy, and they have to like. I did end up. I think now I'm trying to remember. I think I did end up signing some sort of paperwork like before I went into the booth,
Mm,
but like I didn't have a chance to read it then either. And then even the PA guy or whatever, like the PA girl leading me up to it, she didn't know about it. She honestly didn't even get what was a big deal about the scanning thing. Like she was like, "Oh, I thought they owned you if you were in a movie." And we had like me and some other background people were like, "Girl, you know that if you're in a movie, like the movie doesn't own you. They just own like the image of you that they took for that movie. It's not the same as being scanned and like you're in a computer and they can make you into whatever."
I
Like
didn't
she
want to
didn't
make a
even,
big deal of it, Nadi, but the fact you haven't been speaking French this entire time has been disappointing. You are supposed to be a French dignitary after all,
oh
but
my God. No, like it was weird. Like no one really knew what was going on with it either. The PA guy who was there at the table with the paperwork, I was kind of like trying to feel out the situation and I kind of made a little joke. I was like, "So, am I going to like see myself as an alien in some other Marvel movie and be like, oh my God, that's me?" And he was like, "Oh, no. I don't think so. I think it's just for this movie," which I mean, I'd like to hope that the image of me scanned would just be used for the production that I'm in. But
mm.
I don't know. I didn't read all that paperwork. So you might see me 5 years from now and it's like obviously me, but I'm like a blue alien but it's like obviously me. And I'm like, excuse me. I didn't get paid for that. But
They're making that Walt Disney pick, man. You and Walt Disney fighting in the future. Like that's what they
oh my
scanned you for.
God.
Uh,
But yeah, like I said, I was like, you know what? It's kind of cool. Like, did you ever see that Ari Fullman movie, The Congress? I think it was like in 2009 or so when it.
no, I haven't seen that one.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Like
I'll add it to the
this.
list.
Oh, well, it's beyond relevant now,
Mm,
especially given AI and scanning. But basically, I mean, it was like very super ahead of its time. And I guess I'm not sure if it was before or after Avatar, but like you're talking about a big, huge change was with Avatar and how that
mm,
affected just so much within the industry and with audiences and with special effects and all this and how all this has changed and also too very specifically like mocapping. And so basically the Congress is about Robin Wright playing herself essentially,
mm,
and she's this aging actress as she is in real life, and she has the situation in her family where she's working not just to try to, obviously it's less about, I think, staying relevant for her personally and more about the reason why she needs money and why she's
Hmm.
even working. Like acting being a job that we were talking about forgetting before, how it is still a paying job at the end of the day.
Mm.
So with her, she's kind of put in a hard situation where there's a transition happening within the entertainment industry where people are now kind of like transitioning into a world of like augmented reality, something more like Ready Player One or
Oh, interesting. That sounds really cool.
yes. And so you basically what happens is you get scanned. And so actors essentially you go to the big studio and you like sign away your life essentially like you signing with the devil
Mm.
and you get scanned and I think you only live in that world from now on.
Oh,
Like
wow.
as that like you're a cartoon basic. It's like a reverse Roger Rabbit almost where
Yeah.
you're turning someone who's a real actor and now you're putting them into an augmented scanned AI world and now you're like living in this world but you also act in movies in that world and they can like I think if you're I can't remember I haven't seen it since it came out so I don't remember if like your physical body is in some sort of stasis or something, or if it's like the substance where it's like you're part time there, part time in the real, how you split your time. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while, but it was an incredible movie. It's got great effects. Again, like Roger Rabbit in that way. I definitely need to rewatch it, especially now that that's my job and I'm in that world, and so it's super relevant to me. But just it's relevant just within the context of how the industry has evolved and the things that we're dealing with now. So yeah,
Mhm.
highly recommend that movie. And I was 100% thinking of the Congress when I got scanned myself. I was like, this is it. I'm Robin writing it. Let's go. But yeah, I'm glad I did it to even if they own me and even if they do inappropriate shit with me like 50 years from now. I mean, I don't know. If I'm dead, I don't know. I'm not gonna know. So I guess in a weird way, I would rather exist as a green alien with 8 boobs being topless and some like B grade porno 50 years from now than to like just not exist at all. I don't know. Is that worse or better? I don't know. I
I
guess
don't
I
think I
did it.
can call this episode the eight-booted octopus, but I really want to.
Don't
Um,
you?
no, no.
Oh, I'm giving you too much, but that's what she said material. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, oh my God, Nadia.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay. I'm gonna
that's
tell you. I
go
know.
on.
No, no, no. You go on. You go on.
No, I was gonna say, like you talking about the Congress also made me think of that film Possessor. I don't know if you've seen it by David Cronenberg's kid, but that also,
Brandon Cronenberg.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, I love that movie. That it is kind of a similar, just like a mental kind of swapping of the mind and the
Mm,
body and going into different world. Yeah, it's a very mind fuck type movie, except it's unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure Possessor is probably something we'll deal with at some point too, because
mm,
when the Congress was made, like AI scanning, there was mocap, but there wasn't obviously this huge controversy and concern. Like, I mean, I'll tell you, in 2009 when I saw the movie, it felt way more like of a theoretical futurism
yeah.
versus now. I saw recently that Adidas, I didn't look into it, so I don't know what the deal is, but I saw on social media, someone made a post sharing about apparently Adidas has a whole ass commercial of AI people,
Oh
no
wow.
real people. And the commercial, like I saw the clip up or whatever, and like you wouldn't be able to tell. Like they don't have. It's not like how AI is like either things to look out for, like the whole thing with the hands. Like there's like 6 fingers
Yeah,
on one
yeah, yeah.
hand and weird little like Picasso, like the eyes are a little bit off, Picasso, the
Mm.
ears, something. But like the commercial, the clip that I saw, you would never, it just looks like a bunch of young hip people running and jumping around as those commercials usually are, with the
Oh,
shoes and the clothes. And I was like,
those are all the
oh,
things I hate. Young people running around, being hip. That's not me at all. They didn't make that commercial for me, Nadia.
Ah! I'm like, oh wow, okay, that's kind of bringing a whole new ball game and relevancy to the freaking Congress. So yeah,
Mm.
definitely, you should rewatch it, and I need to rewatch it for
Yeah,
sure.
I'll definitely
There's
check it
probably be a
out.
little more of a horror slant to it now at this point in time, in 20 freaking 25, all these years later.
It's going to be like the patient zero for us. Like, oh my god, like they warned us. Like this was a message about the future. We ignored it. Uh,
Mm.
oh
Like
my
The
goodness.
Simpsons, they've been trying every time, man. They're like, "We told you guys,
Yeah.
tried to warn y'all.
Oh man, like
Eight, 8 seasons ago, we tried to warn y'all about this."
it is scary how much they've gotten right, The Simpsons, and like they're like, it's a joke. We're just kidding. And America and the world was like, no, we're taking this seriously. We're selling Fox to Disney.
Oh
We're
my
making
god.
Trump president. Like everything that you thought was a joke, we have taken as law.
It's
Um,
like the comedian and the Joker philosophy, like,
mm,
you know, everything's chaos, so everything's a joke, you know, like
yeah,
nothing's serious. There's no real reality. Everything's just crazy. It's like, oh, like, can we just keep that in comic books and movies, please? Like, I don't want
please,
that thing into real life. But
please, 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 please. Yeah,
oh
let's
my
do
god.
that.
Okay, okay. So to venture on, I mean, do we even have time? Do I have time? I'll say this: the movie I was going to talk about next would be a lot shorter, um, than the other ones that I've talked about. So I
Yeah,
don't know
we've
if we
we've
even
got
have
about we've got about half an hour, 40 minutes, so we can dive into another film. I did want to talk about another film. I'd love to cross one more off your list, so let's do it. But
Oh
just so you
my
know, Nadia, like as long as you're happy to keep coming back, you have an open invitation. This is some of my favorite stuff ever. I love talking to you about movies.
god. Okay, well that's okay. That's fun. I'm glad I have the green light to go because, like I said,
I'm gonna
I
box all the episodes up as like as a set and just sell them as like, as a like as a season of TV. I'll be like, hey, here's the Nadia Chronicles, the Chronicles of
oh
Nadia. That's
yeah.
the episode name. I've got it. All right, we're done. Um,
Oh my no, like I say it's only child syndrome, but it's probably like for the best that no one was cursed to be my sibling because they would just be like sitting here listening to this, like, oh my God, Nadia, shut up. And they could say that too because they'd be my sibling. So they could tell me to shut up. I'd be like, I want to talk
I
about
don't ever
movies.
want you to stop talking. I love listening to you talk about movies. I've said many, many times.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. Well, like I said in the last episode, I had such a hard time. Like when you asked me, come in with five of my favorites, and I was like, how do you choose favorites? I can't even live that life. So my mind doesn't work that way. So I really was just like, let me think about some movies throughout my life in my timeline that I love and have affected me and whatever. So childhood went with Who Framed Roger Rabbit because it was just like so a part of me. And so the second one, a little further down the line, would be when I was 11. I was talking about how I went to LA so much on my father's business trips and it kind of how that was like a business slash fun trip and get into stuff in LA. And then I had mentioned before about not only did we do LA, we went down to Mexico too, but also just totally for fun. There was no business out there, but we always, every summer, at least spent a few days making the drive from LA through the desert on the way to Vegas.
Mm,
So, as much as like LA and Mexico were a big part of my life growing up because I traveled there so much, Vegas is actually just as much a part of my life because I went there like every summer too. So,
mm.
the movie, which I think is talked about, I probably would say the least amount in the series, but it's probably
Oh,
personally for me because I
I know where you're
relate to
going.
it
I think I know where you're
so
going. And if it's what I
much.
think it is, I'm really excited.
But I personally just so relatable to me that I have to say, as much as I love some of the others, and again, because of the travels out west, there is another one in the series that I definitely very much relate to, having gone to theme parks every trip
Yep.
out west to
Yes.
Orlando. But Vegas vacation,
Yes.
oh my gosh. 1997, baby. That just I was in the thick of my trips going out west. So when that movie came out, as much as the first vacation movie with them going to Wally World, like that was so relatable to me because like my father very much saw himself as the Chevy Chase. He wanted to be the perfect family, even though I'll say, I don't want to get into that because my relationship with my dad was like really super complicated while he was alive. But like, oh my God, in his mind, he wanted to be just the ultimate family man, like
Hmm.
the Griswold, taking his family to trips, all going together and doing this fun stuff. So like, I did go to Orlando all the time. I went to Disney World, Disneyland, Sea World, I mean, all the worlds, all the flags, Epcot. I went to all of them. Like,
Hmm.
I very much grew up going to, and Universal Studios was a big one for me too,
Hmm.
obviously. As a film person, that was even probably my most favorite one because it had like all the movie lore and the backlot, you know, like little tours and things like that. So that's probably my favorite. But Disneyland is so classic. But like, so going to Wally World and all that, like, I very much that cross country trip in the car, the long
Mm.
hours through the deserts to get to the theme park finally. Like, that was definitely relatable. But the Vegas one, I just feel like
Yes.
no one talks about it.
This
And
is a
it's so
staple of my
good.
childhood. That's why I'm so excited. As soon as you started mentioning Vegas, I'm like, is she gonna? There's no way she's talking about Vegas Vacation. Like, no one talks about that movie. Um, I love
No
that movie.
one
I
talks
didn't.
about
It came out in '97. I wouldn't even realize it was a new release. I imagine we watched it because my dad was like, "Oh my god, new Chevy Chase vacation film, great." I
it.
didn't
Mm.
know about it being new or anything, so I was just like, "This is." I love Vegas Vacation. It's probably the one I've seen the most.
Oh
Um,
my God. Me too. And
yeah,
so where is it in the timeline? Is it the second or third? Like, is it?
it's the last one. I mean,
Oh,
there's the
it's the last. That's
well, there's the Ed Helms
right.
one now, so it's the fourth one.
Okay,
Because
right.
you've
It is
got
the last one.
vacation, European vacation, Christmas vacation, and then Vegas, which no one talks about, but is so underrated.
Oh my God, it's so underrated. It's so funny. It's so good. And if you have any connection to Vegas, it's perfect little capsule of that the essence of that city, that space.
Mm,
It's just, oh my God, the lights, the buffets, the shows, the craziness, the gambling, the losing the
mm,
money, all the stakes are high. And it just I love too that, and I'm glad you reminded me it's the later ones because I feel like Clark at that point in his life is different than he is in the other ones. He's a little
yes.
more unhinged like in older, like, and I feel like especially since he's like literally gambling like their life away, I feel like the stakes are like the most high because like the
He's the most
Christmas.
tragic, I think, as well. Like in the first, like I just came back from a European trip, as I mentioned last time. Last year we traveled for about 6 months, and there was a moment we were going on different trains in different countries with different languages, and I had a very Clark Griswold moment. Like I'm talking like Clark Griswold when he gets to World and it's shut. Like we were trying to get on a train, and all
Ooh.
these Euro, like, and I'm not that guy. Like I'm so chill and relaxed, and like I just like things don't bother me. I just like I'm just like it is what it is, and what will be will be. Like that's kind of my approach to life. But there was a moment we were on like the fourth train of the day or something, and these tourists were trying to like push in front of my daughter. Like my daughter was 3 at the time. She's trying to get on a train, and there's like a huge gap. We've got all these suitcases, and I went full Clark Griswold at them. And I said to my wife, like later, I was like, "Sorry about that." Like I kind of I got unhinged for a moment. And she was like, "It needed to be said," and I'm glad you said it. So I was like, "All right, good." So,
Sometimes it comes out, and I don't think, if you travel enough, and especially if you do big attractions like theme parks enough,
mm,
I think it's like, it's just a tale of survival, like a badge of honor that
yes,
you eventually earn if you live that kind of life. Because I think everyone's probably going to have at least one like Wally World shutdown story where you like
yes.
made all the plans and you did all that. Like, mine is like when I went to Germany and I didn't realize until I was there and it was too late and it was the last tour of the day when I got there by the time I realized it. But when I was in Munich, apparently that is where the Never Ending Story shot at the Studio Bavaria there. And I did
Oh
not
wow.
freaking know. I mean, that is, again, talk about one of the movies I watched on my roster of VHSs that I owned and watched like religiously over and over again. Never Ending Story 1 and 2 were
Mm,
like huge for me, huge, huge, huge times infinity. Dreamed about flying on Valcor's back. Like,
mm.
I had a white Maltese dog that if I hadn't named him Pepe already from Pepe Le Pew from Looney Tunes, I would have named him Falcor from like never ending story because he was a white little dog. And a good thing though, because if I had named him Falcor, he was like such a small dog. I would have probably been trying to ride it on his back and probably would have smushed it. So that's probably for his best. But oh my God, like I was, when we got to the studio and I realized that the last crew of the day had just gone inside, and we're talking like it had so much stuff from the movie. And one of the biggest things was that they actually have frickin' Falcor, and you could actually get on his back and take pictures and feel his. Like I always wanted to see what his fur felt like, and he has. That's what I love about him because he's a luck dragon. So
Mm,
because he's a dragon, he not only had the fur, almost like an Asian dragon has like kind of more fur, but it also did have scales. And so I always wanted to feel like what his shiny scales felt like. And so, oh my God, like when I just barely missed that last tour of the day, I was like beside myself. Like I was like,
mm.
I'm in public, so I can't break down and cry like a child. But this is what I'm feeling right now. Like I am crushed. So
Yeah.
I I think everyone, if they've traveled enough, if they've made plans to go to some big thing like that enough, you're gonna get Wally World at some point. They're just lucky I didn't pull out the gun and like John Candy him and be like, make me, bring me to Valcor, take me to Valcor now. But no, Vegas Vacation, it's the same level of just zaniness. I mean, maybe even dialed up because Vegas is also so zany. So I
Mm,
feel like Clark is sort of meeting Vegas. Like they match each other's freak well, you
yes.
know? And it just was so much to me. Like it felt like going there when I watched it because everywhere was so familiar to me. Like everything in the movie, all the locations, all the specific casinos, all the places on the strip they go to. Like it just, I was like, I knew it all so well. So when they're
Mm,
walking through the casinos and on the street, it felt like I was there with them. And it was a very interesting feeling because like I said, there are movies growing up about LA that I like Roger Rabbit that I really appreciated because LA was so big for me. But something like Roger Rabbit is a partially animated live action movie that takes place in 1947. That's not the same LA I was familiar with when
mm,
I grew up. So to see an actual Vegas in a movie that is modern day Vegas and everything looks the same as when I gone went there the year before last, like
mm.
if I'm watching it's like, oh, that, like if it came out in 1997, that's exactly what it looked like last year when I went last summer in 96, so everything really, like it was kind of one of the earlier movies that was in a place that I was so familiar with.
Yeah.
So it really transported me. Like I felt like I was in the Griswold family, like their third kid or something. And I'm like, let's go to the Mirage and see the white lions and tigers. And oh my God, there's so many cool things about it because it just felt like I actually love the Mirage, and I,
Mm.
I I got to go see the Siegfried and Roy show. So when
Oh,
you
wow.
know Clark, yeah, gets invited up on stage with Siegfried and Roy, and he gets put on that big, like I don't know if you remember, but like the finale of the show in the movie, Clark gets put like he gets swapped out essentially with a tiger and ends up with all the tigers on this floating ball, and he's like, "How did I get
Yes,
here?"
yes,
Like
yes.
yeah, they like transport him. And so I saw the real Siegfried and Roy show maybe around that time, like either I think a little like a year or two before the movie came out. So
Mm,
I was actually also not only familiar with Vegas, but familiar very specifically with the Siegfried and Roy show. So when the scene ends with Clark on the magic ball, floating ball with all the white lions and tigers, I'm like, oh my God, I saw that in their act.
yeah.
Like that is how the real show ends, on all their lions and stuff like on a floating sphere. So I was
Mm,
like, that's so cool. And like it's just like the movie features so many fun things that I grew up loving and looking forward to going back and seeing every year about Vegas. Like talk about the Mirage, like they not only had the little sanctuary with, I mean, to see a white lion, like lions are my
mm.
favorite animal. They've always have been. And especially when you're little, I feel like that kind of stuff matters more because it's like the stuff you talk about with your friends. Like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite animal? Like when you
Yeah,
become an
none of them were
adult.
watching David Lynch films at school with you, so you had to rest on favorite animal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like that's the kind of shit you're just like talking about more. So like your favorite animal and stuff's on your mind more or whatever. So like I love lions. So when I found out that like actual white lions existed, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then like when I saw them like in real life, like, in Vegas, I was like, oh my God. And when I saw them in the movie, I was like, oh my God, sequel. And so they also used to have like a dolphin sanctuary where they have dolphin shows, which you also see that in the movie. And then the Mirage also had this awesome volcano set up right by where you pull in to drive in to check in with your car in the front of the casino. And it was like every 30 minutes, I believe, the volcano erupted. And it
Mm.
was basically just like a big waterfall geyser thing, like how they have at the Bellagio with like the Bellagio has. I've stayed at like every casino in Vegas since I've
Oh,
been there
wow.
so many, at least the old school ones.
Sure.
And so I have all these memories and all of them. And what's cool about Vegas too is like the way that all the casinos kind of interconnect. So you could
Mm.
kind of like underground walk throughout the casinos and never actually like see sunlight outside. Like
Well, I
it's
noticed that I went to Vegas the year that I went to Universal. When I told you I approached my wife, we started in Vegas, and it was such a different experience. And we noticed that we're like, oh my god, like this is clearly by design. If you can't see daylight, you'll stay indoors and gamble. But
yes.
like
And what's
the way
oh
it's all
my
like
God.
linked together. Yeah, we stayed I think at the Tropicana when we went in, and which I think is a pretty old school one. And
Yeah.
it's such a like the film really does it justice. I think Vegas Vacation gives you a really good idea of what Vegas looks like because you do have the nighttime scenery, and at night, like there's nothing like it. It's just so
Oh,
sparkly,
it's
and
nothing like it.
but during the
You
day,
can
it
see it
is a bit
from
like Cousin
space.
Eddie's. It is like a bit of a desert.
Oh my God. No, no, it really is quite for as like special and magical as Hollywood obviously is for being like the birthplace of American cinema, like Vegas is just such its own lore and
Mm.
story and history and like I mean it's like it's a city built upon gangs, which I mean Hollywood kind of is too, honest TBH, but like it really undoubtedly obviously is, that like there's so many bodies out in that desert, like in Casino, Scorsese's movie, like it
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
oh my God, which speaking of that, it's just so crazy and it's so sad because like I am so grateful for a movie like this because you talk about like the Tropicana, I'm pretty sure that's even older than the Mirage. And I'm not sure
Mm.
when the Mirage might have been around since the 80s, but I feel like Tropicana is more like 70s and 60s.
Yeah.
And so that's like even more of the old school Vegas. So I just love that it kind of is like LA where it goes through like it feels like it's timeless, but it definitely goes through its like changes and its like facade. And it's like bittersweet and kind of sad. And there's like something really poetic about it all. Cause like it's just something like in your mind, it's like, oh, Vegas is Vegas, Hollywood's Hollywood. But you do kind of have to watch it change and you
Mm.
can't really stop it. So it's like I'm so grateful that like something like Vegas Vacation has this time capsule of my Vegas, which was like
Mm.
my Hollywood, which is the 90s. Like I'm an 80s baby, 90s kid. So
Me
it's
too.
like,
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Um,
2000s teens. That's how I put it. 80s
That
baby, 90s kid,
the best
2000s.
fashion for teens was in the 2000s.
Oh my
The return
God.
of flared jeans and hair gel, and oh man,
And
no
wearing
one looked
three
cooler than
belts
us.
at once. Oh my God. No, I'm just so grateful that the movie and I know that there are other 90s movies about Vegas. Like I remember since I was so into Vegas and then this movie, I know that there's Leaving Las Vegas, right? Does Nick Cage play like an alcoholic in
Yeah,
that?
it's
I
him, and
remember.
is it Elizabeth? It's either Elizabeth Shue, I want to say.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. And I actually have not I've yet to see that movie after all these years. I
I don't think
remember
I've
my
seen it either. It's one that
oh
like
my God.
would play on like late night TV a lot, but and for me, like being a film fan, but also someone who was grew up in quite a strict household, anything that had like an R next to it, I'm like, oh, I've got to check it out. How salacious
Like
can
the
it be?
forbidden
Like,
fruit.
and I
Yeah.
think like leaving Las Vegas at like age 16 or 15, whenever I first tried to watch it, was just too advanced for me. But yeah, like you're right. Like there's so many wonderful Vegas films. You mentioned Casino, obviously. In the same genre as Vegas Vacation, one that's not talked about enough is Mafia. I
Oh
don't know
my
if you've,
God. Yes. Yes.
yeah, which
Oh
is
my God. No.
so,
Oh my God. I don't know anyone else who's ever brought up Mafia. It's like Simply Irresistible, Sarah Michelle Gellar last episode. No
yeah.
one brings up Mafia. I
Lloyd
love that
Bridges,
movie.
Jay Moore, like what a
Oh my
fun film. Like
God. It is so. Oh my God. fucking isn't it? Wait, is it Laura Linney, right? Too.
No, it's oh my Christine
What's her-
Applegate.
Yes, no, Christina Applegate. Oh my god. Okay, she has this line in it that is so fucking stupid that she says to her child that she doesn't even know that she birthed, which I love that. Like, how is that possible? How does she have a kid that she doesn't know about? Oh my god! But like, it's like this. Remember the whole? It's like a whole Forrest Gump parody, and she's
Yes.
like meeting her own child for the first time. She's the Gump,
Yeah.
and like they hug, and her son hugs her, and he's like. I quote this all the time because it's so fucking random and no one would ever get to because like I said no one knows about this movie or ever talks about it but it's the most random dumbass quote I always quote it. He hugs her and he's like, "You smell good." And she pulls away and looks at him and smiles. And she's like, "Thanks. I had cantaloupe for lunch." And it's like so random. It's like, what the cantaloupe? And cantaloupe is such a mild taste and even a more mild scent. It's just so bizarre. So when,
She had some great
especially if I
lines.
ever eat cantaloupe, I'm like, I had cantaloupe for lunch.
She has some of the best lines. She has some really great lines in that film. Like when she walks into like his family for the first time, the entire mafia, and she's like, "Ooh, Italian food," as if like they'd be having anything else. Like,
And they like assassinate Barney in it, like which
yeah,
obviously I grew up with Barney, like not huge because it was already parodied and like just ragged on so much even
mm,
when it was popular. Like Saturday Night Live like just destroyed. I feel like Barney. So like, but it's like when Barney was parodied in Mafia, I was like, oh my god, they just like assassinated Barney. What? Like oh my
um,
god, Mafia was one of those movies that when I tried to, I never owned it, but I always tried to catch it like on DirecTV. Like whenever I turned on DirecTV, there was like a handful of movies I
mm.
always kind of hoped was on, and I'd always like really try to catch it. And Mafia was one of those movies where if it was on, I was like, yes, Mafia.
Yeah, it's
And it's
so good.
funny because
Yeah,
I hadn't seen like actually any of the movies it was parodying. So like I
yeah.
knew that it was a parody type movie, but I hadn't like I the only movie I think I'd seen because I actually didn't see. Okay, this is crazy. There's a lot of classic movies I haven't seen for someone who loves movies and like some may want to call me a film critic, whatever. But like I had not seen the Godfather movies until like very recently, like the past couple years. And
That's
like
fair. That's totally I was that way with Star Wars. I didn't see Star Wars till I met my wife. Like I was almost 20. Oh no, I'd seen Attack of the Clones in theaters, but the original trilogy until I was almost 20, I hadn't seen them. I didn't watch Terminator
oh,
until I was in my late 20s. Like either one of the first two.
oh, okay.
So
That makes me feel better. Okay,
oh,
good, good.
dude, like, there's no race. You know what I mean? Like, people like to like. I feel like when people like do that, like, you haven't seen this. It's like, all right,
You're like,
well,
oh,
oh, how can you not
what?
see this? It's like, well, thanks for making me feel bad about something.
Yeah, like
Like, I
Jesus, that's a
I grew up in
life
a very
too.
strict household, so there was no cursing allowed. There was no violence. Pretty much any action
Oh,
film that had a vaguely European sounding name in the actor's title, I wasn't seeing until I was an adult. Like, for
oh,
some reason,
oh.
my dad was totally. Well, actually, I know the reason. I know two reasons. Nudity, totally fine. Naked women, all
What?
day long. Police Academy, go.
What?
He's totally fine with breasts, but anything to do with
That is
violence and
the.
cursing, he was the opposite of America. He
I was
was,
gonna say that is the literal exact opposite of America. You could have like freaking Commando with a
yes,
hundred kills, like blown up body parts, no problem. But don't you dare show a titty. Don't
yeah,
you show it. Oh my god, you'll get it blurred out. It'll be oh my god, it'll be cut for TV. Like absolutely not. Which is
yeah.
crazy. Some of the things that I've seen, like it's so funny some of the stuff they'll show on TV and it's edited and you're like, why did you even show this? Like, how did you like the whole movie people are naked or whatever? Like, like don't even try. Just show another movie at this point. Like,
There's a
no,
really
like
fascinating documentary that came out almost 20 years now. You may have seen it. It's called "This Film Has Not Yet Been Rated." I think it's called, and it's basically about the ratings board in America. Because the ratings board in America, from what I understand, is different everywhere else. Like in Australia, it's a government body. In the UK, it's a government body, but
yeah.
the
I know
American
the
one is
British
basically
have
like a
their own.
parents' council, like run by religious groups, and they decide how to rate it. Um, yeah,
Yeah. America pretty much sucks at most of what we do. TBH. I ain't even gonna lie on that one. I mean, it
No,
is
you
what
guys
it is.
make wonderful movies. Like without America, the film landscape does not become mainstream. Like America's got a
Yeah, that's
lot of
true.
good things going for it, but just when maybe the committees they put together aren't always so
No,
good. Like,
I don't think the art in America is in spite of America, to be honest. I think
mm,
it's influenced by its natural beauty of the
mm,
cityscapes and, some of our natural, nice topographies and such. And perhaps, obviously the cultural, soup pot, melding soup pot that we have that has brought in so many different things. But America itself is always, I'm like, get it together, y'all. We've had a few hundred years at this point. Like, can we? We should be like not here by now. Like, we should be better. No,
the
for sure. That
the problem I have with the ratings board, and I don't mean to rag on it because everyone has their own different expectations, but the ratings board is so meticulously done in America. Like it's very specific. Like you can say one F word and it's PG-13. Once you go past one, it's R rating. Except of course if it's this film, in which case you can have three. But then what you'll still have is like you'll see parents like take their kids to go and see Deadpool and then claim like
oh
why did Disney
Lord.
do this to us? It's like no. The rating board which you designed said don't go and see this movie. But like to be fair, we have
Uh,
idiots like that in Australia as well. So like there are just some people who don't follow instruction very well. So yeah.
well, one thing is like, it's funny being a kid going to Vegas because it's like you talk about like you think of like freaking talking about stuff like Showgirls, that movie. It's like that's the kind of 90s Vegas. They don't really I think they try to be a little more family friendly now,
Mm,
and I feel like Vegas back in the day that was the place you could go in America to see boobs. I mean, it's I think the only place now still where brothels are actually legalized. Prostitution is the only place I think, maybe New Mexico too, but just freaking Nevada, they do it different there, and I feel like it's just its own little bubble in
mm.
America where you know nudity on screen, anything else, no, 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 no. But you go to Vegas, and it's just a whole little wild zone, which is funny because now there is the big bubble there, which I haven't seen because it was put there since after I've been last. But yeah, Vegas is its own bubble, and now it has its own giant bubble, and I love it. Like it is such a part of American culture,
Mm.
and that has definitely been in movies like we were talking about. Like, like for instance, I did not see Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas until I was in, I think, high school,
Yeah.
and oh my god, that put a whole new spin on what Vegas was for me. And it was funny because I hadn't I don't think I'd done drugs at that point when I saw it. Or if I had, I don't want to incriminate myself too much, but I may have been just
I'm trying to work out the
starting.
statute of limitations for you. I
Yeah, I may have just been. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember now exactly when I saw it, but I may have just been starting doing drugs or trying drugs, or hadn't done them yet. But either way, like I had not at that point, at least, even if I saw it in the craziness of that movie, I had not like been to even Vegas as an adult yet when I saw that movie,
mm,
because I've only been back to Vegas unfortunately one time as an adult when I lived in LA. I made a trip
mm.
on, I think, like Memorial Day weekend and went one time. And it sucks because I lived in LA 5 years, but it's so expensive to live there. You don't have a lot of play travel money. So I
Well,
only
and like, going back to what you said earlier, like when you travel on dad's dime, it's a whole whole lot different to when you're trying to make it
yeah.
work yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I just didn't have the resources to really
Mm,
go. So, I've only been back once as an adult. So, um, I hadn't been as an adult, certainly not under any kind of influence when I saw Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But it was just funny because, like, he goes to Circus, and I think that's where everyone is like iguanas and shit there,
yeah,
like all
yeah, the
lizard
lizard
people.
people.
But oh my god, it's just funny seeing the because it's funny. Like I saw Vegas through the eyes of Clark Griswold in Vegas Vacation, and it was
Mm,
like I could see a lot. Like it's funny, my father wanted to be Clark so bad, and in a lot of ways he was. Like I kind of see Vegas through my father's eyes via Clark's eyes because they're kind of a similar person to me. But I
mm,
also it's like, so, but I can relate to Clark because he's so excitable. He gets so
Yes.
excited and he's so enthusiastic and he wants to have fun and he loves vacationing. Obviously, he's got several movies about it. Like, and
My
I love
my own
that
father,
too.
very similar to Clark Griswold as well. Not as unhinged, thankfully,
Really?
but yeah, my
Oh
dad.
my god,
I
same.
haven't been on a family vacation in about a decade. My dad's still with us. He's been on the podcast actually a
Mm,
couple of times. My dad, but yeah, I remember when I was 12. Or I was entering we don't do elementary school. We have primary school and high school. So I
mm,
was entering sixth grade, and the last family vacation we had before my parents divorced, we drove from where we lived in Victoria, which is the bottom of the country, all the way to Queensland, which is quite northern in the country. It's about a 3-day drive. And
mm,
because
mm.
it was just one of those things where it's like to get 3 kids and, like to get a 5-person family on a plane is so expensive. We'll just drive. And there were definitely elements of Griswold on that trip for sure. Because we drove there and back and it was insane.
Oh
Uh,
my god,
but it
yes.
all
That,
comes from that point of that unbridled enthusiasm, just wanting to like, I just want to take my family on vacation. I just want to have fun. We're just going
want
to
to
go
have
to
the
the
perfect
beach. It's going to
memory.
be amazing. And like to be fair, it is probably my most treasured vacation, even with the insanity that went with it. So there is method to Clark's madness because I've seen it
Yes.
executed in real life. That
Love how despite how crazy he is, it really like how you were talking about how, people at the end of the day, like Biff or Trump or whoever, like Clark, it's like you want to feel loved and you want
Mm,
to do good and you want the big moment and everyone just wants to be seen and
mm,
recognized. You want to provide, like you want to do good by those that matter. And so it's just like everything's about achieving whatever that thing. And for Clark, it's like he wants to be the perfect family man and
mm,
husband and dad, and he wants just everyone to be a perfect happy. I mean, it really is sort of the epitome of the transition from in the 80s and 90s, that perfect nuclear family idea
mm.
where you've got just the good job and you provide for your family, you've got the wife and the 2 kids and the house with the picket fence, and you go on vacations, and it's just like very different economics than it is now.
Yeah. I think the
And
other, oh, sorry, go on.
oh, no, 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 you go
I
on.
was, I was gonna say, I think the other reason why I like Vegas Vacation so much, because it is one that doesn't get talked about enough, is that I think you have the most interesting dynamic for his children. In the
Mhm,
previous three films, they're quite young. They're there, but they're not really. They don't have much to do. It's not like a Macaulay Culkin film where the kids are as entertaining, if not more entertaining than the parents. Like it is very much driven by Clark and by Beverly D'Angelo. But
mhm.
in Vegas Vacation, you've got Marisol Nichols, who might have been my first movie crush. Definitely, def,
Ooh, she is
definitely,
a little cutie hottie, and they make that
definitely,
part of the movie too.
definitely an
Her
early
like
movie crush
coming
for
into
me.
her womanhood.
Yeah. And she's a teenager. So Audrey's, trying to push the limit. She's doing interesting things. You got Ethan Embry from Empire Records, which is one of my favorite films of all time as well.
Oh
And
my god,
he's playing oh my god, I can't remember the kid's name now, but he's
Rusty.
Rusty. How do I forget that?
That's
He's
a funny name.
yeah, he's like showing an interest in girls, and he's interested in the Vegas lifestyle. And suddenly, like these kids have some character, like so they're just as insane as the parents. Maybe
Exactly.
slightly more sane than the parents, because Clark is a hard barometer to match.
Oh my god.
But like that adds this whole other element, and suddenly like everyone's got their own role and moving parts. Like Beverly D'Angelo has the whole like pseudo affair with Wayne Newton, where he
My
gives
god,
her the lock of
Wayne
his hair.
Newton. Oh my god, that whole side quest story of fucking Wayne Newton playing just this ridiculous version of himself. Like, I gotta give it to Wayne Newton on that.
Mm.
Like, he's so funny. Like, he's like, I'm gonna gift you a lock of my hair. And she's like, whoa, buddy. Like, oh my God.
I
And he's
wonder
like,
what came first, this or Mars Attacks? Because when you started talking about Vegas, I did think the other film
yes,
might have been Mars Attacks,
yes,
because
Mars
that has Tom
Attacks.
Jones doing the exact same thing.
Yes, 100%. Mars Attacks is another one of the movies. Absolutely.
Mm.
I'm glad you brought that up because that felt very much like this too. Like
Yes.
you've got people kind of riffing on themselves, and you get the whole because like the city's kind of a little its own character element of the story that's really emphasized. No, absolutely.
Mm.
That's funny. No,
Uh,
I love like what you said about the dynamics of the kids now being older, and
mm.
that's like such a big part of it. And it for me too, because like I was just like hitting puberty around this age roughly too, so I'm kind of going through the same things
Mm,
as they are at trying to become feeling like you're in an adult kind of transition, but you're not an adult yet. So it's like you kind of want to be treated like adult, but you're kind of still acting like a kid, and you are still immature. But it's like you want things. All these things are clashing, and so I really related to the kids,
mm.
and I just thought it was so fucking hilarious. Like,
It
to me,
is.
like
It's really funny.
it's
Like that's the thing.
genuinely funny. Like there's so many funny funny jokes. Like even in the beginning when Clark is listening to the Beach Boys and
Mm.
he's singing along with them, and it's the song Good Vibrations, and he's singing along with them, and he's like almost like running off the road in the neighborhood on the way home. And
Yes.
he almost like and I love the part where he almost runs a kid over, or like a guy, someone over on a bike, and he's like, "Oh, sorry," and they're like, "Hey, Mr. Griswold," like they don't even care. Like I guess they're
Yeah.
used to it. I don't know, but he like almost hit and runs on them, and he's just
There's
in the car like doo doo doo
uh,
doo, and he's like woo, and he's just like, oh my god, I
I
love
feel like
that.
I haven't watched it in a little bit. I bought the box set on Blu-ray a couple of years ago, so I've got to go back to Vegas vacation. But there's obviously um uh Randy Quaid's character, cousin Eddie, is living in the nuclear test site, and they're just cooking
So
steaks on the rocks, which feels like a nod to Hills Have Eyes. Like that's what it feels like to me. I got to go back and watch it.
yes.
Or like even when they go to Hoover Dam, like that whole set. Welcome to the dam tour. I'm your dam tour guide. Do you have any dam questions? Like that's one that I would quote a lot as a kid because you get away with saying "damn" in front of everyone. So,
And I had been, going to that area. I had gone and visited the Hoover Dam. So it was cool to see all these like tourist spots that
mm,
they're going to visit in the movie that I visited also in real life. Like it just felt really meta to me before I even knew the concept of what meta was.
mm.
Like, oh my God. Like, okay, I remember this, I guess, like I said, was in about fifth grade ish or so, but in like yeah, I think so because in 5th grade, oh yeah, we had this assignment. The teacher told us to bring in a CD with and play a song that like we really loved or meant something to us or whatever. And to be honest, growing up, it wasn't really until about 5th grade that I even owned any music of my own. Like a lot of
Mm.
people grow up and they're like super into music at an early young age, and like I really like I always enjoyed music, but I really only listened to it if it was like on the radio in the car, my parents were driving, if I heard it like at the skating rink or just like out and about. Like I didn't really seek out music. I didn't really know a lot of like artists, names of songs, names of performers, whatever. But 5th grade, like because of movies, actually, I started getting more into music and identifying people and songs and things like that. And so the assignment I didn't since I didn't really know a lot of music, I was like, man, I don't really know like what to even bring, and I didn't really like own a lot of things. And so I actually brought in the Beach Boys Good Vibrations and played that song because I loved it in this movie so much. I used to sing it in the shower. Like I just loved Good Vibrations because it's like the theme beginning song of this movie. So that was like a whole part of my personality was Vegas vacation. Like it got me into the Beach Boys. I love that song. Like, and also too, it was funny you bring up um like what was it? Ethan Embry. I
Yes.
actually have a little story with about him. So I loved him in this. I actually it's funny. He's in that thing you do with Liv Tyler, which I've seen a couple
Yes.
times. I really like that. It's just like a really cute period piece little movie about music and stuff. And but I actually, even though I know it is so fucking like cult classic big, but I actually have yet to see Empire Records.
Well, I haven't seen that thing you do, so now we both have
Oh,
homework.
so we're
I've seen
flipped.
like snippets,
Okay.
but we can swap.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So that's the Liv Tyler connection he has with both of her in those movies, and you've seen one and I've seen the other. That's funny. No, I just know that I actually did another podcast where it was like the theme was like bring in. I think it was like 3 movies that have soundtracks that are like integral parts of the film, and
Mm.
someone had brought up Empire Records as their choice, which
Yes.
I was like, dang, I know I need to see this. I just know that it's just like a real, like, kind of like cult classical indie that's just kind of very like kind of a cultural thing. So
I always refer to it as PG Clerks. Like if you like Clerks, you'll like Empire Records. They're kind of interchangeable, but one's just way dirtier than the other one, but they
yeah,
are
like
very
a
similar. You could,
cultural kind of movie. Yeah, I definitely know I need to check it out. But like I know he's in that. I hadn't seen it, but I'd seen him also in the year after Vegas Vacation. He was in Can't Hardly Wait, which,
yes.
oh yeah, and that's just, Jennifer Love Hewitt. It's just like a stacked cast,
That is
like
another early
Seth
movie crush of
Green.
mine.
Oh my God, who didn't have a crush on Jennifer Love Hewitt? Like she was in
Yes.
so much in the '90s between No You Did Last Summer and then all the like '90s like just little heartthrob high school movies that she was in. Yeah, no, that was a
Heartbreakers, of
really
course, which is wonderful. And if you want to
I
go really
love
obscure, Little Miss
Heartbreakers.
Millions as well. But
Oh my, I haven't seen that now, but I love
that's obscure.
Heartbreakers.
Well,
Oh my
that's
God.
it's just Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, but gender reversed. Like it's great.
Oh my God. And I didn't even see Dirty Rotten Scoundrels until a couple of years ago either, which is so good. Oh my God. I love that movie. But
Incredible. Yeah.
oh my God. But when Ray Liotta and obviously recently Gene Hackman
Mm,
now passed, both of them, I'm thinking back to Heartbreakers. They're just
mm.
so, it's just a fun movie. It really is. And everyone seems like they're having fun making it. Like, that's the kind of one that's like under the radar, but everyone is good in it. But
It's
yeah.
so funny. Hey Nadia,
Uh, I
guess what I'm gonna say?
oh my God.
We're out of time.
That's it. That's it.
Oh my goodness, Nadia, this has been an absolute blast. You are fast becoming my favorite person to speak to about movies. And again, like that was 3 hours. We started recording. It's 10:30 a.m. where I am now.
Jeez,
We started talking around 7 a.m. my time. So we've
I
been going for
can't even.
yeah. Um, we have knocked off 1.5 movies from your list because I feel like there's more to talk about with Vegas Vacation. But this has been an absolute delight. Oh man, I knew.
I am so thankful you were so gracious with your time. Like,
Oh, you're cool, but you're so cool. Like you talked about how you would come home, you'd go to school and talk about the latest movie, and no one was listening. I would have been there, like if chin in my hands, elbows on the table, just like please continue. And that's
oh
what
my
I'm
God,
doing
you need
here.
to be like my brother, so I could just be like, and then there was a raptor, and then the T Rex came, and we could have
Um,
gone to the movies, and our parents would have been like, "Shut up, go to bed."
yeah. Well,
Oh
I hope everyone
God.
has enjoyed this episode. I've been having a blast. Like, I just
Oh god.
love
We
listening to you
need
talk
like
about.
an hourglass timer or something so I could like see it and be like 10-minute countdown left, wrap it the fuck up. Oh my
I don't
god.
want to stop you. Like, and like honestly, I was probably going to stop it about 20 minutes ago, but I was like, no, let's keep going. Let's just keep
You
going.
should have. You should have been like,
No,
I need a
it's
buzzer. You need to
no,
be
not
like,
at all.
"Grr."
It's so much fun. Like you're so passionate and you're so like analytical, but not in a very dry, boring way. Like you just love tearing it all apart and breaking into it. So I was like, I'm just gonna let this coast a little bit longer. Like I know I need to wrap things up, but this is fun. So the invitation, of course, is always open, Nadia. If you like, we've got a few more. We're probably gonna take 5 episodes to get through your list, and that's fine.
Oh my god. And I
Um,
came on this being like, I'm going to be brief and calm and let him talk more. Oh my
Well, I
god.
did talk a lot more this time. I would say I definitely like. I wanted to throw a few things in there, but the problem is yeah, and I don't think it's a bad problem. I think it's a good problem to have. We're very similar, and that is that once you get a tangent going, you're like, well, let's fuel it. Let's keep it. Where does this tangent go? Let's go. And like, I had a segue for Saturday night because I think the first question I asked was, "What was it like working on Saturday night?" We will
Oh
answer
my
that.
god. We didn't even get to Saturday night. I
We
swear.
will. We 100% will. These are my favorite kinds of episodes. I like no structure. I like
I'm
just
trying to
opening up
build
and
up
talking.
to Saturday night because that's the most recent thing I did. So,
We will get there. As long as you're happy to keep coming back, like I will keep having you on the show as long as you want to be there. Like if we keep going the way we're going, you're going to be an official co-host at some point, I think. Um,
I'll be like me and Captain America just shoving my face onto your podcast like logo thing. Be like
I
me in there with you, like
I will take that any day of the week. Um,
oh,
before we get out of here, do you want to remind everyone where they can find you?
Oh, well, if I haven't chased you off with all this by now and you want more for some reason, I guess, you can find me. I've got my own quote unquote podcast called Cinema Chats. It's on Spotify. Um, it's just me holding you hostage like on here, except there is no one like James to stop me. So it's just nonstop this. So if you would like to do that to yourself, you could listen to me there. I am also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram there as Roll Tide 1931. And you can also find me on Letterbox where I post reviews like Long Legs, which Facebook will not allow me to do. So,
People love listening to you, Nadia. I can tell. Your episode, your last episode, was the most downloaded episode since our 100th episode special. So
oh,
in almost a
thank
year,
you.
yours was the most listened to episode. And how could it not be? Like, you're just so much fun to listen to and to chat with. So hopefully everyone enjoyed part two of what is becoming its own cinematic universe. But we're gonna keep going because I love talking to Nadia. Clearly, thank you everyone for listening. Go and support Nadia. Go check out Captain America if you haven't. Go watch Saturday Night. Then you'll have some context for what we're talking about. Go and
Yeah.
watch Megalopolis. She's in a bunch of stuff. Go support Nadia. Go follow her on Instagram and send her some love as well. If you want to support our show, I was a teenage film snob, underscores between every single word. But that's going to do it for this week. So thank you everyone for listening. And as I say every week on the show, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.